charged me again today with more offences. They just want me in court at the end of October for two sets of contempt. So it was 2 years. I knew I was looking at 2 years now. I want to go through the first contempt and show how the judge lied. Just say, look, this is the system we're up against, yeah? I tell journalists to go after the grooming gangs. The judge says I incite my followers to commit vigilante attacks. The public are angry, the public are upset. You hiding it, putting it under the carpet, you will build more anger and more resentment. You see, every one of these men are in jail now for these riots. And for the families that will watch this, whose dads have been taken, who are in prison, they'll get upset thinking about it, because they shouldn't be in jail. Nine out of 10 of them want Sharia law. They don't leave that at the border. They bring it in. They bring their intolerant views of women with them. I'm feeling a total and utter betrayal of our country's men and women, of families, of hard-working British public who have been absolutely betrayed by a government who are intent on destroying and silencing. If the government could speak openly, what they're saying is, you lot will shut the fuck up whilst we flood your country. So you don't like Tommy Robinson, well, you created it. Your cowardice and your failure to make arrests, your cowardice to tackle problems, the fact that you can't even name Islam, the fact that you won't give a voice to the British public, or you silence them, attack them and demonise them at every opportunity, created the character of Tommy Robinson.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome to The Strongest Argument. I'm joined here today by Mr. Tommy Robinson. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You're from Luton.
I'm from Luton Town.
Could you tell me a little bit about what life was like growing up when you were a kid in Luton?
No matter how bad it was, I still say it was great, because it was a great upbringing.
Yeah.
I experienced a lot, learned a lot of what I'd say is real life in a real town. Luton, 30 miles north of London. When I was born in 1982, there was one mosque. Now I think there's plus 40. Mm-hmm. So I've seen the change in the town as I've grown up. Yeah. My mum was one of 8. She was an Irish immigrant to Luton. I grew up, I had a blessed upbringing, but full of love.
You got brothers and sisters?
I've got a brother. I had my mum, my real dad I haven't seen since I was a little kid. Yeah. But the man I call dad, his name's Tommy as well, Thomas Lennon. He's actually Scottish. Right. And I always say DNA doesn't make you a father, because he has been a brilliant dad to me and the family.
My stepfather's Scottish as well.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a good dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, good father.
So, and I grew up in lower school, in my junior school. I had a great upbringing. When I went to high school, that's when I first noticed something very different, and that was with the Pakistani community. Mm-hmm. Two of my best mates at school were Afghanis, twins as well, in high school. Two of the lads I gravitated towards. But I noticed that whilst you might have friendships in class, there was a total separation as soon as you come out of class. Okay. So when we grew up, it was the front playground was the Muslims' playground, the back was the non-Muslims' playground, and there were clashes at school. Right. If someone messed with one Pakistani kid, 10 of them would jump them. Right. And that was something I hadn't experienced before. I hadn't seen that before till getting into high school. I grew up and saw lots of different. I'll speak about these in my Oxford Union address. I saw, like, Kamran, my friend, was in a relationship with Lisa, a girl. I was going out with her friend, and then her family went up to see his family to say that they couldn't be together. Okay. And as a child, I was like, what is that about? Why can't they be together? And the reason they couldn't be together was because she wasn't Muslim. So just the divide was natural at school. There was no racial divide either.
It wasn't racial?
No, never. Luton, everyone's the sons of immigrants. You line all my friends up, they're all the sons of immigrants. But there wasn't a divide through race. So when people talk about racial tensions, I never saw racial tensions in my town. Okay. There was religious. The divide was religious, and the tensions were religious.
Was there a divide with Sikhs and Hindus as well?
No, totally not. That's the point. Is like in our school, if you went into, and I always express this, if you visualise it, go into our school dinner tables, go into our school dinner hall, the whites and blacks are sat together, Indians are all intermixed. In the corner there'd be 6 tables of Muslims. Right. Now we didn't create that either. That isn't something that got created by us as children growing up. It was just like that.
Spontaneous.
The two were separate.
Yeah.
The two were separate. And I challenge every journalist to this. When I was leading the English Defence League, we'll get onto it, but I formed that in 2009. When I was leading that, any journalist who come to interview me in Luton, I'd just say to them, do me a favour, go into that town and find me any group of Muslims with a non-Muslim, and I'll rest my case. Just find me one group of Muslim boys who have got non-Muslims in amongst them. You will not find it.
Do you still have Muslim mates now?
I still have, Muslims, but they're not following Islam.
Okay.
So Muslim by identity,
By culture.
parents are by culture, which is many Muslims, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not following Islam.
That's interesting. I was going to say, well, I have Muslim mates since I was a kid, but they are, they're liberal.
They're liberal. Yeah, so if they were following Islam, they wouldn't be living there. So my friend who's a Muslim lad, and he's a great lad. He joined the Royal Navy, joined the British Royal Navy. His mum's a Muslim and his dad's a Christian. He come to our school. He left a madrasa. He was in a madrasa, and he come to our school because they started teaching him in the madrasa that his dad had the devil in him. So then he's come to our school. I've grown up with him, but he still identifies as a Muslim.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't follow Islam, he'll identify as a Muslim. Probably, I could imagine if your mother's a Muslim and a practicing Muslim and she wears a hijab, it's probably something that you feel you need to protect. So when someone like me is criticising Islam, which I do, the ideology of Islam, lots of Muslims, and even the Afghan lads, I remember when I set up the English Defence League and I was sat in court and I bumped into one of them and he said, I don't think it's as bad as what you say. I said, you don't think that you don't know. And I've seen this with lots of Muslim lads. I've done a sit down.
That was an Afghan lad saying to you.
Afghan lad saying to me, Yaks, because everyone calls me Yaks growing up. He said, I don't think it's as bad as what you say. I said, but you don't know. Because many of them don't know their own religion. Just like many Christians don't. If you started quoting the Bible to many people who identify as Christian, they wouldn't know half the stuff about it. You start going 100%. Through every story in the 100%. Life of Jesus,
they don't know.
No one would know, yeah? So I've researched Islam. So when I talk about, I remember I had two Muslim lads, and one of them was filming, and one of them was interviewing me, and I was talking about Muhammad, the Prophet. I was talking about what he'd done in his life, according to their scripture. And they were like, what? I said, yeah, man, he beheaded 600 people in one day. I said, like, he tortured a man for his gold. And I went through all the scripture, and they were like, at the end of it, they're like, I didn't know any of this. I said, no, of course, because you're not getting told this. You're not getting taught this. It's like the people converting to Islam, they're getting told. And I understand the strength in Islam. Islam's a strong ideology, and it doesn't bend. So whereas all other faiths are currently bending, the Church of England's bending, they're watering down their beliefs. Islam is staunch.
You're staunch. We were going to warm into that over a 20-minute period, and we are straight
in. Don't waste a minute.
That where you are now is like 8 questions.
Is it? What was the name of this show?
The Strongest Argument.
And I've got the strongest argument, so I thought I'd bring it straight off. I'd hit him with that strong argument.
Right, there's your warm up. So well, then I'll go to the tougher questions. You've studied Islam.
Yep. Do you know when I first studied? So I got 22 weeks. I was sitting on solitary confinement.
Yeah.
I was in, to get around the legality. So what they do, I was in Wandsworth, then they moved me to Bedford, they moved me to Woodhill.
Why were you in Wandsworth?
I went to America, 2009, started the English Defence League.
Why did you start the English Defence League? Let's go back to that.
Let's go back to that. So I'd grown up, I'd seen lots of problems. Al-Mujahideen are now a prescribed terrorist organisation, but they never were. Yeah?
Right.
So 60% of the British Muslims in jail for terrorism are ex-members of this group. So Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza, Anjem Chowdhury, all the famous terrorists, this was their group. Okay. And their head office was in my town.
Al-Mujahideen, what does that mean? The
fighters,
the warriors?
Warriors, the Islamic warriors. So that was their organisation's name. So growing up, I had to learn about this group. Yeah. Kids I grew up with, like there's a lad called Roger, calls himself Ibrahim, big ginger Jew said. He converted and become one of that group.
Right.
Saif al-Islam that translates as Sword of Islam. He was number 2 to this group. So this group you have to remember that back years ago, you remember Abu Hamza, hook hand?
Yeah.
Openly outside Finsbury Park, radicalising and recruiting, unchallenged by the British government. Most of our problems come from weakness and cowardice of our own establishment and laws, because these groups were recruiting for terrorists, and they were allowed to do so, and they were on our streets doing it under the guise of freedom of speech.
And this is back in 2005, 2006. You're saying this?
Yes. For me, the wake-up call for me, after September the 11th, I watched the Beslan school massacre. I don't know if you've...
Christchester have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, and these sorts of massacres are important. There was another one called Peshawar, the Peshawar school attack in Pakistan.
Didn't see that one.
So the Beslan school massacre, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this play out. And it was where in Chechnya, lots of jihadists took over a school. They take over a school and all the parents, look, picture this. Imagine being a parent, and we need to picture this because this is coming to a UK school. I guarantee you. Yeah? This is going to happen in a European school.
This is a horrendous story. Go ahead.
It's a horrendous story. So the jihadists take over the school. The parents all rush to the school. The parents are outside, and then the jihadists start slaughtering the children. And the parents, I can still see a woman drops to her knees, a mother just screaming. What can they do? Yeah, they can't get into the school. The military are outside the school, and they go through and they massacre and butcher all the kids in the school. Yeah? So I watched that play out, and when I watched that play out, I thought, that's not one lone individual that's done that. So for me as a young man, I was trying to understand what drives a group of men, not one person. This isn't mental health, as they keep telling us now. Yeah, this is a large group of men who have come together and made a decision to go and get these kids. What brings them to do that? And about a week after that, so that was everyone has a moment that opens their eyes. And then you can't close them. So that opened my eyes to starting to look at this group. Yeah, and the reason I looked at this group in Luton was because a week after this, there was an interview in a chicken shop in Luton.
Yeah.
And Luton Muslims, Saif al-Islam, Sword of Islam is his name. There's a famous video of him punching me through a car window. But he's gone on, he's now in jail for terrorism, I think now, as we talk. He sits there and says an attack like that would be justified against a British school.
He said that?
He said that on the interview in a chicken shop in Luton. And I looked at it and I was young. I was probably 20 years old. I guess I was fiery as a young man anyway. And I looked at him, who the fuck's he? Who is this geezer? What I've just watched is not justifiable in any school. And that opened my eyes to looking at who's he? Right, his name's Sword of Islam. What group is he? Al-Mujahideen. Who's the head of that group? Omar Bakri, all these... I started connecting it all. And then I started looking at this group and I saw that their head office was in my town. And it was in Biscuit Mill, just an estate in my town was where their head office was. So I thought, this is an international terrorist organisation that are operating their head office in my town.
Right.
And as a young lad, so that I organised my first ever protest at that point, and I called it Ban the Luton Taliban. And I was 21. What's that, 2004?
Yeah.
2004 probably. I was 21 and I went and leafleted the whole town. I made leaflets and they were headlined Ban the Luton Taliban. And I actually went back, when I gave my presentation at Oxford University, I went into the local library and I dug, because they put this leaflet on the front page of our local paper. And in this leaflet, I spoke about these groups. I named them, but I also named the drug gangs that work with them. There's a gang in Luton called the Gambino Gang. And that's 2004. So I made this leaflet in 2004. By 2007, our national newspapers were running stories about this drug gang.
But at this point, Tommy, you're 22 years old.
Yep.
What motivates you to take this action?
So I'd left school and bearing in mind I was the same as everyone else. Yeah, I left school. I went and done an apprenticeship as an aeronautical engineer. So I remember 600 people applied for that apprenticeship, 5 got it. I'd done well at school. Okay, I got 11 GCSEs. I got an A in maths. I got and I was naturally clever at school, but didn't try.
Right.
If I would have tried, I'd have got 11 A stars, and I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't try. I was a class clown. Had a good crack, but still managed to breeze my GCSEs. So then I went and done an apprenticeship. And the reason I'd done an apprenticeship, and I made the decision not to go to college, because Luton sixth form was controlled by Pakistani gangs. And I'd learned very quickly at school, if you're not willing to put your head down, which I'm not, if I walk down the street and someone's looking at me, I'll look back at them as a young man. Yeah. And if you're not willing to put your head down, you're going to have years of trouble.
Right.
I remember going to people talk about racism. I remember getting called a dirty gullah, and I very quickly learned growing up what that means. It means white in Urdu. Yeah, that's them calling us white scumbags. I remember getting robbed. I got robbed twice in one night. We used to hide our money under our socks. When we go to the under 18 nightclub as young lads, we'd hide our money under our socks because we'd get strip searched as we walked through the town. So by groups of Pakistani gangs.
I grew up north. Well, I'm from the Wirral next to Liverpool, and the Wirral is like
Squirrel from the Wirral.
Squirrel from the Wirral. So like it's when I was growing up, it was 96% white. It was just a totally white peninsula. So
Luton's 50% Pakistani Muslim.
So we're both from the UK. This is for people who are not from the UK.
Yeah.
They don't know
what it's like.
Yeah, it's splintered, and it's very. So what I'm hearing you say is, you're living in a town. You're white. You're non-Muslim, and you kind of feel a little bit under siege.
I feel totally under siege. And when I say we fell under siege, my cousin was affected. These gangs, the grooming gangs, which everyone now talks about grooming, yeah? We talk about. Dig up the leaflet I wrote in 2004 as a 21-year-old man, yeah? As a young man. In that leaflet that I dig up for my Oxford Union presentation, and I dug it up to show the public that my rhetoric has never changed.
Okay.
What I'm saying now is always what I've said, yeah? And in that leaflet, I actually say, we don't have a problem with individual Muslims.
Right.
But there's a big problem here, yeah? Where drugs are being used against our community to get our daughters and sisters hooked onto drugs to then be prostituted to paedophile gangs.
And this was happening in Luton, not just up in Bradford.
This is happening in every city. So what I didn't realise is, yes, this was happening in Luton. It happened to my cousin. So my cousin would escape out of the bathroom window. The house would be locked. She'd climb out the window to get back to the gangs, yeah,
Right.
for the drugs. She's 14 years old. So when she woke up naked with loads of bearded men raping her. She ran out into the streets naked, and then her dad collected her. When you call the police, and I remember listening to these family emergency meetings from everyone talking, police say she's a drug addict. And this was, remember, the attitudes meant to have changed now, but the way they viewed these girls, these children, were as willing participants to child prostitution. So these girls would be targeted, and I watch girls in my school targeted. I know there's a girl, a beautiful girl, an absolutely stunning girl who was taken from her family. And I remember years later, I remember seeing her mum in a hotel and she just broke down crying. The experiences, I remember, she broke down crying. She hasn't seen her daughter for 2 years, Tommy, Yaks, because she knows me as Yaks. I remember I walked into a car garage to look at a new car, and the manager just come out and broke down crying. I said, all right. She goes, please come and. So I haven't seen my daughter. So I know so many girls this has happened to.
So
Girls growing up, I know girls, so many girls, like beautiful girls. So when you know their family, and I tried explaining this. I explained this to. I've done a documentary called Proud and Prejudiced. Yeah. There was a documentary where Channel 4 come and they sent a journalist to be with me for a year. So when I first met him, I said, right, I'm going to bring you inside my circle. Yeah. So the first thing I done with him was we went to the local pub where everyone knows everyone. Yeah. And we're at the shops and everyone knows. And I rang up Bingo, who's a Pakistani, bit of a gangster lad, but I grew up with him. So I rang up this when I was leading the EDL. I rang up and said, right, I'm going to introduce you as my cousin. So I rang them. I said, all right, boys, what are you saying? I said, I'm just up Bushmead, which is the estate. And they said, we'll swing by. So 3 of them swung by. So I got in the car, 3 Pakistanis. We had a laugh. I said, this is my cousin. He's a bit of a posh boy from out of town. This is who he is. We had a laugh, sat in the car for an hour, catching up on things. At the time, I'm leading the English Defence League, yeah?
Right.
So we get out of the car. I said, that was for your benefit.
Yeah.
So you know as a journalist, I don't hate every Pakistani, yeah?
Yeah.
And this isn't about hating them, yeah? This is about there being real problems. So he spends a year with me. He then and what, you know what he said afterwards, and this is partly our problem with politicians as well. He said, I've never experienced this. I said, what? He said, you all know each other. Everywhere you've gone, people have hugged you. Shopkeepers, every person you've met at these shops. I said, yeah, it's called a community. Where did you grow up? He goes, well, I went to private school. So where I grew up, I didn't really mix with everyone because I went to private school. And when I left private school, I went straight to university.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone in the town I live in.
Yeah.
I said, so if a woman gets in the town you live in, it doesn't affect you, but you can see the way we are close near.
Yeah.
So if something happens to one person on this estate, for example, if one of those girls is hooked on heroin being passed about, we all feel it. Yeah? It affects all of us, and we want to react to it. So the English Defence League, as I said, I left school. I done my apprenticeship. I studied for 4 years. I then went to work in Manchester on the line. I started doing my licensing. So licenses are they're equivalent of an A level. You do a license in your qualification for aeronautical engineering. I started doing my licenses. I got 3 separate licenses, and then I had my first ever criminal offence.
What did you do?
I had a fight. I was arguing.
A fight?
I had a punch up.
In your 20s, unheard.
In my 20s, yeah, I know. Do you know what it was though? So growing up with all my mates, most of my mates went that way to crime, where we grew up. Yeah. Most of them were involved in crime. I remember being with my mates, even when we walk in the streets as young kids, so they'd be nicking cars. I ain't never getting in a nicked car. Yeah. I always had, and I'd say all this was to do with my mother. Yeah. My mother made sure I was brought up properly. Although I mixed with everyone, I didn't participate in it. So as I left school, lots of lads gravitated towards drugs or drug dealing or criminality or all these different things. But I still maintained them as my friends.
Yeah.
And I went the other way. I maintained a straight life, went into aircraft engineering, and then I'm out, I'm arguing, and this is documented as well. They try and use this against me. So I'm 20 years old, just finished my apprenticeship, and I have an argument. And only 2 years ago, I viewed all of this differently, yeah? Until then, I'd hated the police because I was arguing with what become my wife and the mother of my children. So we're arguing at 2 a.m, and then a bloke turns up in a pair of shorts. He says, right, calm down. You're going to walk that way. Where do you live? She lives up there, which is up an alley. I'm going to walk her home. I said, don't be stupid. Fuck off, mate. Yeah? And then he admits this, yeah? His name was Christopher Dalton, armed response police officer, which I didn't know at the time.
Okay.
He then rung and rugby tackles me to the floor. He throws me on the floor. Yeah? Once he throws me on the floor, I don't really care who you are. But he throws me on the floor, I get up and beat him up, basically.
Had he been drinking?
No, he hadn't been drinking. I had.
But he was not on duty and not...
Not on duty, but then he says in his statement that he identified himself. After throwing me onto the floor, he pulls out his warrant badge. Yeah?
And did he?
He didn't. Yeah? But he did. He didn't. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I beat him up in the street. Now I hated the police. I beat him up in the street. I lost my whole career. I was sent to jail. Yeah. So I was put into a system, I believe, and I appealed it to the High Court of London. So there's documents of this. And the judge said, when we got to court, the judge said that everything I'd done was in self-defence.
Yeah.
Because he attacked me.
Yeah.
But I kicked him in the head when he went on the floor.
Okay.
Now, just speaking honestly, to me, that was normal. In growing up in Luton, that's normal.
I used to do nightclub security work for about 10 years, and I was in New Zealand once, and a lad kicked off. He was a big lad, and I ended up in a scuffle with him. But because he was big, I didn't want him to get up, because if he did, he would have battered me. He was an off-duty cop. And that caused...
Same again?
Yeah, same thing.
Did you kick him on the head?
I didn't kick him on the ground, but when he went down, I elbowed him in the top of... You know this 12 to 6 thing they banned in the UFC?
Yeah.
And he had hematomas on his skull. And they caught me on CCTV. But my whole thing was to say...
Self-defence. Look at the size of
He's a big guy. If he'd gotten up, it would have happened. I'm only saying that to say... You know,
it's my first offence as well.
2 o'clock in the morning, people have been drinking. What did he think you were going to do?
Yeah, and what do you think I was... But I viewed it that way. I viewed it my own way, yeah?
Yeah.
All these years.
Yeah.
And I said to him... And at the time, he didn't ring the police. He rang his mates. So they come through the door. So I'm in bed then. I'm in bed then at my missus' house.
Has he not got nicked?
I'm in bed at her mum's house.
Right.
He rings his mates, yeah, who are armed response police. They come flying through the door. I'm laying in bed, get dragged out of bed. I go to court. I pleaded not guilty. The judge finds I had 7 seconds to calm myself when he went on the floor and I volleyed him in the head. Yeah. Now, just growing up in Luton, and I've only realised...
We should say, excessive force is bad. You can defend yourself, but you
can defend yourself. So
we've got that.
In hindsight now...
Yeah.
I thought kicking someone in the head and a level of violence was totally normal.
Yeah.
Because I'd been in school where our school would fight their school, gangs would fight, everyone would fight.
Yeah.
Growing up, everyone fights. I only realised, I think when my kids went to a different area and I was in the gym and I said, when my son gets a broken nose, and this lad in the gym said, why will he get a broken nose? I said, just growing up at school. He goes, why is he going to get a broken nose? I said, we'll probably fight him. Yeah? And
I've had the same conversation with people in Sweden. It's like, the first time you get punched in the face. They're like,
I've never been punched.
The first time? How many times? Well, come and grow up in my area and you're getting punched in the face.
You see, and it's not, but this is what this bloke said. And I think when I got to about 19, I'd never left Luton.
Yeah.
And I went to Harpenden, I went to Hitchin, these are beautiful. And I sat and thought, fuck, Luton's fucked.
Oh, yeah, it's totally different.
I didn't think, I'd grown up thinking that a level of violence was just normal. Yeah. And bearing in mind, my uncles, so my family, Luton's football hooligan group, which is called the Men in Gear, the MIGs, that was started by my older relatives.
Right.
So all I'd grown up listening to and encouraged was listening about football violence. Yeah. The lads I'd looked up to, or I aspired to be like, were all known football hooligans who would go to work a week but have a fight, didn't mind a fight.
Yeah.
So I grew up like that. And then I had my first offence and I went to jail. First time, then I'm in the prison.
What was that for? Sorry, was that ABH?
This was for ABH, yeah. ABH and resisting arrest. Because they took it as assault on a police officer. Because where he says he pulled out his warrant badge, that's it then. He's wearing a uniform, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
He's wearing a uniform. Now, the 2 witnesses, I can still remember their names. Sean and Karen. And I remember their names because I felt an injustice. I felt an injustice all my life over this because my life took a very different direction for multiple reasons at different times. But I would have been living a life as an aircraft engineer And when I come out of jail, I remember going to jail and they come and interview you in prison. And prison was a experience to me. I remember landing in prison, and the area I was from was at war with another area. And then I had problems when I got into jail because I was from that estate. I was like, oh, Jesus, man.
And you're 23, 24?
No, at this time I was 20, 21.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, 21. Just finished my apprenticeship. So everything I'd worked 4 years for, gone. I come out of jail and...
do 6 months or?
No, yeah, I've done half, yeah. Done 6 months. But then when I went in there, I met lads I'm still in contact with now.
Yeah.
But when I used to work at Britannia Airways before it became Chewy, yeah. So I worked at Britannia. And when I'd finished work on a Friday doing my apprenticeship, I got £160 a week.
Right.
But I'd finished work on a Friday, and there was an Irish developer who had a job at Merrill Lynch in London,
right,
changing all the false ceilings. Every Friday for 2 years I worked. I doubled my apprenticeship wage.
Right.
So they used to collect me. I used to work a ghost shift. So they'd collect me from work at 3:30.
Yeah.
They'd drive into London. We'd work all through the night, and we'd finish at 7, 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'd double my apprenticeship wage. I didn't miss one shift with him. Yeah.
Right.
And I was a hard worker.
Yeah.
So when I come out of jail, I rang him. I said, I've lost everything. But I went to court. We appealed the conviction to try and when I went to the High Court of London, I said, if you accept my appeal, I can go back to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know these laws where if you've got a criminal record, you can't get an airside pass? They all come in after September 11th. So I blame them for that and all. You fuckers done that at all. Weren't my fault. But I looked at this and then I couldn't go to work. So I said to the judge, like, you're putting me into a system you're going to take me out of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go back to work.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So I was bitter with the police, angry with the police. I remember even coming out of this jail sentence and being at the airport, getting a jacket potato. There should be a jacket potato van. I remember the bloke who's working at the van saying, mate, look to the left. And I looked and it was a copper sat in the car. And he goes, look at him. And he was like this. And he got out and come up and this was the same Christopher Dalton copper. He comes out of his car, like here. I said, all right, mate. He goes, recognise me? I said, no, not really, mate. I said, oh, actually, last time I saw you were laying on the floor. Now I recognise you. But I held a real bitterness for years about this until, and we'll get on to a lot goes on in between, until I booked into a 28-day rehabilitation centre to review what would be classed as my problems, because I had a lot of problems. Went through a lot, ended up going in and out of prison, death threats, all these things. And in there, you have to take yourself out of your situation and look at your faults, which I'd never done. And my faults were I was screaming loudly with my missus at 2 o'clock in the morning in a housing estate.
Yeah.
The bloke come out. So when I looked at it, it just lifted a weight off my shoulders to think, fuck, he was right to come out, man.
Yeah.
If I heard a young man shouting now, I'd come out of my house.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I should have lost my career. And I lost my career, come out of jail with nothing, start mixing with lads, in and out a few problems. And then, but I rang up the builder who I worked for 2 years. And I said, mate, I've got nothing here. I'm back in. And I said, you got any jobs? Can I come and labour? So I started labouring for him. I was labouring for him for about 6 months. And his plumber was a lad called Tom, who was moving to Australia. So I said, when he moves to Australia, who's doing all your contracts for plumbing? He said, I haven't sorted that yet. I said, right, give them to me. He said, what the fuck do you know about plumbing? I said, I'll know everything by the time he moves to Australia. Will you agree to give me an opportunity to quote your jobs? He goes, yeah. So I set up a plumbing business. I quoted his jobs. I had 20 houses, 15 houses, 30 houses. I ended up having 6 lads work for us.
Yeah.
And then my life took a different turn. I ended up working with my then wife. Well, no, I didn't marry till 2011. We ended up getting into property. We had 7 This is all getting on to the point of where the English Defence League forms. We had 7 properties. But in that little start of that mad period is when I done my first demonstration when I was 21, 22, called Ban the Loot and Taliban. And I brought about 200 lads into the town centre. So this group of Muslim radicals were recruiting outside Don Miller's every Saturday. And what we basically said is, well, we're going to come down and confront them. Basically, that was the idea. Yeah. We're young football hooligans. And on a football day, which is a Saturday, is a day that we, as a group of young English lads, could get 200 men.
Right.
So, and these now, as I said, I'd come out of my apprenticeship. I'm looking at these terrorists, listening to what they're saying, thinking, no, you're not doing that in our town, not in our town centre. So we come down to confront them and they weren't there. They didn't turn up because they knew there was lads coming. Yeah. And I thought, right, that worked. Yeah, they're not here. But then I stood outside the town hall and I gave a statement.
How old are you now?
21, 22. And I read it. This is before I got 20, 21, just come out of jail.
Right.
Looking at these lot. And I looked and thought, I gave a statement, and in the statement, stupidly, I named the Pakistani drug gang, the ones that run everything from the Pakistani community.
The Gambinos.
The Gambinos. Think of your own name, you mugs, yeah? Do you know what I mean? Come on. You're not Italian.
You're not Italian.
You're lost. Right? They're pimping kids, they're selling heroin. And the gang I named then in the leaflet, which I use, was named by national newspapers years later as working alongside the terrorist groups.
Okay.
They fund them.
Right.
But I named them, read out their names, said, right, called on the police to say two-tier policing. How come you don't police them the way you police us? Whites, and in the leaflet I said, whites and blacks are being religiously targeted and racially targeted in this town. Yeah? Stephen, there was a boy when I was about, called Mark Sharp. He was with his son. His son was my age. He's driving to get a takeaway. He has a bit of road rage with a few Pakistanis. He calls them a wanker out the window. They follow him. They ring for reinforcements. He gets out in front of his son, 11 years old. They snap a knife off in front of his head. So I remember all these stories, yeah? So there was an explosion of violence which...
What was there a consequence to that? Did the police sort
There,
them
they
out?
got 3 or 4 years. Read it. Read about it. And do you know what they said in trial? When these group of 8 of them who attacked him in front of his son, when they went to trial, they said that was it enough aggravation to aggravate a group of young Pakistani men? Yeah, they sort of put it on Mark Sharp. Read it. He's with his son, going to get a takeaway.
And they're saying that he aggravated them.
Yeah, they aggravated them by calling them wankers. Who cares what he called them?
To snap a knife off in his head.
To snap a knife off in his head. Do you know what it was? The witness statements, so Mark Sharp was a tough man as well. So as they're beating him up and attacking him, he wouldn't go down. They're hitting him with baseball bats. They're hitting him with poles. He's outside on the shop window. Remember, his son's watching this.
Yeah.
So I remember lots of stories like this, not one. And I remember my uncles explaining it and my family explaining it, that after the Gulf invasion, which what we didn't realise is after the Gulf invasion,
Gulf War II.
Gulf War II, after this invasion, a level of extremism, radicalisation and jihad had been put on the streets of our town.
Right.
Everyone's oblivious to it.
Yeah.
So whilst everyone's being brought up, these lot are being taught to hate, which we don't realise.
Can I just stop you there? There's my background is psychology. So one of the things that I think has happened is there's actual trauma. So there's actual stuff that you've seen that is making you think, shit, you must have felt threatened for yourself, for your loved ones, your family.
Yeah.
And then there's this thing of not really being believed. Like, people don't generally believe you. And then...
It was like when we started the English Defence League, and I'm sitting on TV with Jeremy Paxman, and they watched this interview, and I said, they're raping our daughters in every town and city. They're coming up the school gates and collecting them. Yeah?
What did he say? What did Paxman say?
You expect us to believe? You really expect us to believe? And then I listed, I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, because I went on twice. And I remember, do you know how scared I was going on there? I'm just a kid from Luton. I was working on a building site. 6 months later, I'm leading the biggest protest group in Europe.
Yeah.
I'm on the streets.
At a very young age.
At a young age, I've got no political activism. I don't understand politics or media. And I'm just here. And all I've done was, I'm doing what I think's right. Yeah. And I'm highlighting issues around the country that I want people to talk about.
Yeah.
And then I'm on Jeremy Paxman. And I said to him...
He's a monster for people who don't know.
He's a monster,
man.
He's
a fucking harsh interviewer.
But he come in afterwards. So I said to him, I think in that, I list about all the gangs and he tried to mug it off. I said, let me ask you something. Do you know anyone who's hooked on heroin, sold to them by Pakistani gangs? Do you know anyone who's been killed that you've grown up with by a Pakistani Muslim gang? Do you know any girls that don't see their families anymore because they've been taken away from them by Pakistani Muslim gangs? I said, you don't, do you? You don't know anything. I don't expect you to know, but I expect you to listen.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he sat there when the cameras went off. He goes, when you said all that to me, he goes, none of us understand that. And he sat and said, I guarantee you, everyone in this room, none of us know the situations you're talking about. I said, no, you don't, but they're happening in every town and city.
Why didn't he do that on camera?
On camera, no. He come in and commended me. He said, I commend you. The second time I went on.
Did he really?
He come in and shook my hand and said, I commend you.
He's a very, very smart guy.
A very smart guy, and the point being that the points we started raising at the start of the English Defence League were points that no one believed. Do you know these girls weren't believed? The girls that went to the police at age 12, 13, 14, well, they were believed, they just didn't want to deal with it. But no one wanted to accept this was happening. Andrew Norfolk is the journalist who is given all the reward for highlighting this issue. He highlighted it in 2014, I think, or 15. I'll rewind a bit. 2004, whatever it is, I do this protest called Ban the Luton Taliban. From that, Pakistani gangs were on me. Yeah, I'd named them. I'd put them in the
Yeah.
paper. I'd mentioned their shops and businesses.
Yeah.
Said we want them dealt with. If
Yeah.
we know what they're doing,
Yeah.
you know what they're doing to the
Yeah.
police. If we know they're operating drugs from this business and they're grooming these children, these schools and these girls, we know what they're doing. Why aren't you doing anything about it? Why is there a two-tier policing system when it comes to this lot? That's how we just looked at it as a young man thinking, why aren't you dealing with these lot? Why are terrorists on our streets? Why are they allowed on our streets? Why are they not facing the same consequence that anyone else would face? It's like they were protected.
So I want to ask you that particular question, but can I ask you first, do you think in the future of the UK we can have Islam in the UK and it existing within British culture peacefully?
Peacefully, no. Unfortunately, no.
So even if it wasn't, it's nothing to do with Salafist, Wahhabist.
Well, no, yeah, that's a...
if it's like...
Ahmadiyya?
I mean, you must have been to countries where it, like Bosnia or Turkey.
Yeah, where they're cool. Yeah, where they're cool.
Would you say like a style of Islam could coexist peacefully in the UK?
What I'd say is if you look through history, there's 45 countries you can look at historically where Islam has gone as a minority.
Yeah.
It's never peacefully coexisted ever. Once it gets to a certain percentage and demographic, never.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's conflict and there's strife and then there's terrorism and there's jihad and there's war and there's slavery and then there's taking over. Look at Lebanon most recently. Lebanon was a Christian country.
Yeah.
No one wanted to allow the Muslim migrants in. Lebanon being a Christian. Lebanon was the jewel of the Middle East at the time. Yeah. The universities were the best. Education was the best. Freedom was the best. They let in the Muslim migrants that nowhere else would take. After however many years, they launch a jihad and take over the Christian country.
Do you think the rest of the Middle East is looking at Palestine? I was living in Dubai last year. Do you think the rest of the Middle East is looking at Palestine now and saying, we don't want to have happen to us what happened to Lebanon? Because then they're really not helping.
Well, Jordan already is a Palestinian state, but they tried to overthrow Jordan as well.
Right.
So no Islamic countries helping the Palestinians. None of them are taking them in. Look at Egypt. It's got a wall twice the size of what Trump wanted to build. Yeah? They're not taking them in. Saudi Arabia not taking them in. Qatar are not taking them in. Why not? They're all telling us to take them in.
Yeah.
It's Australia that are taking them in.
Yeah.
It's Britain. It's the European countries. Now, unfortunately, the facts are the majority of Muslims in Palestine supported the Hamas attacks on October 7th. The majority, when they had an election,
Majority of Muslims in Palestine?
in Palestine,
Yeah.
in the West Bank,
Yeah.
supported it.
Yeah.
The majority. So if we're taking them in, we have to understand who we're taking in. We have to understand their worldview, their mindset.
And it's a very young population as well, isn't it?
They're very young through birth rate, yeah, very young, and they're brought up. So I went to, in 2013, I travelled to Israel, and I paid young Arabs to take me to a refugee camp. It was a Fatah-controlled refugee camp, so a terrorist-controlled refugee camp. I risked my life going there, but I went there they didn't know who I was. I went there with my mate from school. We had a big fallout when we were there. So he's a black lad. We grew up together. We went there, and then I said we were going to see the history of Israel because I talk about this issue. I need to understand it. So I said, right, we need to get to when you go in Israel. There's big signs saying do not go past here, which then is the territories where the Jews and Christians are told not to go.
Yeah.
So I see that sign and think that's where I want to go. Yeah. That's where we need.
Tell me why.
That's where we need to go because that's where we need to find. And I said to my mate, look, bruv. So we met these young lads. I said, I'll give you 250 quid. Get me in there. Yeah? So get me in the car and get me into that and let me spend the day there with you. Show me around what it's like. So he's a fourth generation refugee, Muslim refugee from this refugee camp. And do you know what? I related with him more than anyone I've met. He was a lovely lad, yeah?
Yeah.
He was just like me. So where I've grown up, I connected with him. I spent time with a lot of Jews there. I connected with him more than anyone.
The
Muslim refugee.
Muslim refugee,
The
yeah.
young lad. He was just like us.
Yeah.
Like, same as us. Like.
Yeah.
And as I went round, there's all murals on the sides of the houses. I said, who's she? And these are all people that have left this specific camp and killed Israelis.
Right.
And then they get, what I didn't realise, so as he's telling me the story, I said, who's she? He goes, oh yeah, she blew up the bus in Israel. She's a martyr. So they're viewing them as heroes.
Yeah.
And these little kids are all running around in this camp.
Yeah.
And I was playing football. There's a video of me playing football with the kids. But I said, where's the park? He said, there is no park. I said, there's no park for any of these kids. And do you know what? I felt my heart bled for the children. I'm a father. And I wanted to help them. But I left that camp wanting to give money to them.
Yeah.
And what he explained to me during the visit is we are purposely kept in this position. Palestine has had 2 times more than Germany after the World War in funding. Yeah? They could have built every single one of them a villa. Yeah? They haven't.
Say that again. So Palestine has received in funding
double the amount Germany got after the World War. Yeah?
So after World War II, Germany was given
money to rebuild,
and they've been given double that.
Double that. This is what he's telling me. We've had double that. He said, I am a 4th generation refugee. My children will be 5th, theirs will be 6th, theirs will be 7th. We are never getting out of here because it benefits us to be here to them. And he kept talking about the Palestinian Authority, not the Jews or Israel. So bearing in mind, I've gone there to ask lots of questions like this. I said, as we're walking around here, and I've got footage of all this, I said, who's oppressing you, bro? Who's oppressing the people here? You're all stuck here. He said, the Palestinian Authority. And I didn't know at the time.
That's a Palestinian saying it's the Palestinian Authority who are doing the oppression.
Who are oppressing them. And what I didn't realise is that the Palestinian Authority pay anyone from these camps that goes and kills an Israeli or stabs an Israeli. They get money for the rest of their life. Yeah. So as a father, and I said it to my mate, I said, so if you want your children to get out of this situation, you're a mercenary. It's not even that. I thought everything was religious. Yeah, I used to look at it all through a religious lens. It's jihad. Then I looked at it like, half these men might not even give a fuck about religion.
Yeah.
But to get their family out of this,
yeah,
they'll go to jail, which ain't that bad. They'll go to jail, and their family will then have money for the rest of their life to move.
Right.
That's how they escape.
It's an economic decision.
It's an economic decision.
It's not a religious decision.
Not all the time. And I never knew that. And then I looked at the Palestinian Authority, which I didn't know much about. We fund them. British taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
So we're giving money to the Palestinian Authority, who are using the money to fund mercenaries to go in. And he corrected me. I thought he said kill Jews. I said, so if they go and kill a Jew, and he said kill an Israeli. He kept correcting me. Doesn't matter if it's a Muslim.
As long as they're an Israeli national, they can be Christian, Muslim, Jewish.
Doesn't matter.
So they don't really care that it's Jewish.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And I was shocked by that. And then when we got back to Israel, and we were safe, and we set up cameras like this, I sat down and said, can I tell you who I am? And he said, what? And I said, my name's Tommy Robinson. I'm the leader of the English Defence League. Have you heard the English Defence League? He said, yes, I have. I said, okay. And he was gutted. He said, why? I said, I had to hear your story, bruv. I had to hear why you're upset. I had to see from within where you are. And we're walking around, all these little kids are playing with guns and running around with little 10 guns. And my heart bled for them. And I said, I'm a father. But then they bring politicians there, and it works. His words were, don't fund Free Palestine. It doesn't come to us.
Right.
Never give money to Free Palestine. It does not come to us. And when you look at the leaders of Hamas, the terrorist organisation who are in control, they live in Qatar. They're in the top 10 wealthiest men in the world. Yeah, it's war, it's money, it's benefit. Yeah? And in the middle of that war are these innocent people. But these innocent children, what I explained to him is, as we're walking around, I try to, without getting in an argument with him, say, so you're bringing kids up here to believe that she's a fucking hero. She blew up a bus of innocent people. She ain't no hero. Yeah, she ain't no hero.
That's effectively a death cult.
And I try to understand from each person's perspective.
Because you are a journalist as well. I heard you say that in the documentary about the Syrian boy. You're a journalist.
Yeah, people may not like it. I'm a journalist, and I'm a far better journalist than any of those mainstream ones. I investigate. I don't know, and I'll go off on tangents as I always do. I investigated a case in Barrow, which was a Muslim man. So a girl put online, and I advise any of you to watch this. It's called The Phantom Rape Gang. It's a brilliant documentary. I've become very good friends with a man who was accused, a Muslim lad called Mohammed. So a girl went online, and it fits the MO. Everything we talk about, I've made a 5-part series so far called The Rape of Britain, looking at the Muslim gangs in Telford and the crimes they commit, and telling the girl's story.
What happened the first time?
I slept with him.
How old was she?
I was 11, Tom.
He had sex with you when he was 11. So he you.
An independent inquiry into the sexual exploitation of children in Telford and Wrekin has been going on for well over 2 years. The police, social services and councillors are refusing to help the inquiry at all.
So then this girl went online and she put images of herself, beaten from head to toe, bite marks, everything, yeah? And she said she'd been trafficked around all these same towns, and then the police arrested her and remanded her in prison.
For?
Perverting the course of justice. So there was this massive conspiracy that she was being silenced. So the first thing I did was, right, let's go to Barrow. And I went there, I looked up the men who were being accused, I'd done loads of research on their lives, spoke to their ex-wives, found out loads about them, yeah? I went there to take them down. That was my intention. I'm going to go and show everyone who they are. And then when I got there, I found discrepancy after discrepancy of what the girl had said. She'd lied.
Okay.
Lots of times.
Right.
So straight away I was like, right. I went and met this other, I approached the Muslims the businesses. They invited me in. Yeah? I went there and said, lads, I'm just here to find the truth. And Mathali was the restaurant. I met the owner of Mathali, first of all, Muslim lad. And when I met him, an English lad come with him. He goes, Tom, I follow everything you do, bruv. Yeah? I respect you. This lad ain't no grooming rapist.
Right.
Yeah? I've grown up with him.
Yeah.
He ain't a rapist. He ain't grooming these girls.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, but there's lots of unanswered questions that the public don't know the answers to. So I started this documentary. And I went to the man who is alleged to be the leader of the grooming gang. His name was Mohammed. And I'm waiting he's got an ice cream van. So I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. And his wife walks out. Says, what the fuck are you doing here? I said, just here to ask some questions. Can I speak to Mo? She said, go on, fuck off. I said, look, can you just take my number? I want to talk to him. So then he rings me. He says, Tommy. I said, yeah. He said, I said, Mo, I need to ask you questions. There's lots of questions like that linked him with other men that were criminals and groomers and all these allegations. There's lots of unanswered questions that the public don't know the answer to. And this was at the start of COVID. Now, there's 2,000 cars. So tensions were boiling in this town.
Yeah.
The Muslims' businesses have come under attack. They're being smashed up.
Yeah.
There's no Muslims in Barrow. Yeah. So what ones there are getting a real hard time at this time. And as I walked into Mo's house, I get called, someone shouts racist at me, and someone shouts rapist at him.
Right.
Yeah? And it was a surreal moment.
Yeah.
Because we both walk in, I sit down, I sit on his sofa, his family are there, his kids are there, and then I say, fucking hell, you get called a rapist, I get called a racist. I won that one, bruv, like in the sense of it. But it also made me think about, I don't like being called a racist.
Yeah.
And I know the effect it's had on my children through schooling and education, through their life. I know the effect of their dad being deemed a racist, how detrimental that's been for their upbringing. So I looked at his son and I said to his son, like, what's happening with you here? How old are you? He said, I'm 16. I've had to leave college. Everyone's calling my dad a rapist. And he's faced threats. The family have come under attack. But at this point, I already know the girl's lying about other stuff. So I don't know. But what I do know is trial by public opinion for these men is not fair at the minute, straight away. So what I said to Mohammed...
So you would defend Muslim men who've been falsely accused?
I was the only person who defended them. And actually, the MP... So I sit down with him and I say, Mo, right, the family aren't telling the truth. I know that. Yeah. The family are leading a campaign called Justice for Ellie. Now, this was a campaign that... What's the girl of Countdown? What's the celebrity girl of Countdown?
Oh, I don't know.
Charlotte. So there's celebrities. All celebrities are backing this campaign called Justice for Ellie.
Yeah.
And they're all coming out in support of this girl who's saying she's by these Muslim men. Now, by them coming out in support and adding their names to it, it's adding weight to what she's saying.
It's not Carol Vorderman, is it?
No, it's not Carol Vorderman. Countdown. Let me have a look. Let me get it out. She's come out. Do you know what's mad is? She's come out slamming me lots, yeah? Countdown. She's come out slamming me. Rachel Riley.
Right.
So Rachel Riley has previously condemned me lots of times, yeah? And here she is putting her name behind this campaign. So I've gone up to the town. I've then found out she's lied previously against men of allegations. I found a boy at school. And I've knocked at the boy's school mum, and I wear a hidden camera everywhere. I knocked at the boy's mum's, and she just started crying. She said, please, Tommy, don't do this.
Yeah.
I said, look, I won't do it. What do you mean, name him? I said, I'm not going to name him. I'm doing an investigation. Tell me what happened with your son. She said she accused him of school. He didn't her. He hasn't even been with her. So I said, right, she's lied there. Then as I come out of Mathali, the Muslim restaurant, a lad pulls up and says, Tommy, you here investigating the thing? I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, I used to work with her, Ellie. I said, what was she like? He said, yeah, she was right. She was nice. But she told everyone I was fucking her. Yeah? And I said, have you? He said, no. So, right, she's lied there. She's lied there. So straight away then, her track record already, she's a liar. Yeah? Then I've gone through, I've got hold of the statements for this case. And I'm reading through her friends' statements. And her friends are making allegations against her own family. Yeah? For other stuff. She had bruising. It was her stepdad. All these allegations. So I think, right, there's a lot more going on here. Yeah? And this, at the minute, I'm meeting a family whose life's been destroyed. And the family, let me say, Mo was a wheeler and dealer, a grafter, a brilliant character, actually, when I met him. I liked him straight away. And I said, Mo, right, as I sat down with the family, I said, I promise you I'm just here for the truth. And do you know all these people out here who don't believe the police? They will believe me. Yeah. So let me ask you some difficult questions. Let me get an investigation on the go, because there's allegations about you, this. And he said, I'll answer anything, Tommy. And I met his family, and they're a beautiful family. Yeah? And I looked at the son and just thought, Jesus, man, what's it like for him at the minute? Their family all being called. And Mo was like me. I met someone who didn't back down. When these protests are going on, calling him a groomer, yeah, he's out in his ice cream van putting his fucking lights on, yeah, driving past them, way like this. But then when I got past the bravado, it's hurting him.
Yeah, of course.
It's hurting the whole family.
Yeah.
But he puts on the strong man. I do that. Yeah, I walk around like that. Yeah. But behind closed doors, what's it doing? So torturing him and torturing his family. I said, Mo, let me just find out what's going on. So I say, I have an investigator trying to find the girl's stepdad. There's lots going on with the girl's stepdad and family. The mother's a counsellor, a Labour counsellor,
right,
and the grandmother's in charge of social services. There's loads of questions going on everywhere. Yeah. So I get the private investigator says, I'm in Mo's house. And he says, right, I've got the stepdad. He's at KFC. So I said, right. I said, Mo, I've got to go question the stepdad. Yeah. So, can I come back? He said, yeah, come back. Right. He don't trust me. I don't really trust him at the time. He's up to no good when I'm looking at his life, I think. Yeah. But that doesn't mean he's grooming children. Yeah. There's all these different things. He's a jack.
He's a bit of a dodgy
he's a jack the lad.
businessman. Yeah.
He's a jack the lad.
Yeah.
He's up shutting companies. Who cares? Yeah. In hindsight. So I go and find the stepdad. Now the family think I'm there to help them. In fact, everyone thinks I'm there to help Ellie Williams. Because my name straight away. I travel there. The newspaper's saying I'm there to inflame tensions.
Yes.
I'm just there to investigate. If the truth doesn't fit my narrative, it would have been easy for me to go there and say Muslim rapists, Muslim businesses, another case.
Yeah.
It would have been easy. But straight away the alarm bells were there. So I didn't do that at all.
So you're an investigative journalist and your primary concern is the truth, whatever the truth is.
Whatever the truth is. So I go, when I see the stepdad, he says, all right, Tommy, I said, when are you going to tell the truth? And I got all the footage of this. He's like, what? I said, when are you going to tell the truth? When are you going to tell the public the truth? There's 2,000 cars here off the back of what your daughter said. You know, and I now know your daughter's a liar. Yeah. So if she's lied about previous cases, just because this one suits, these men cannot be being tried off your daughter's allegation at least, yeah? And I can't find anyone else who backs up her story. Yeah. So I sort of stick it on the stepdad. As I'm doing this, a lad comes up and says, you racist cunt, yeah? And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. I said, mate, go away, yeah? And then I said, look, and he carries on. I said, what are you going to do? What are you here to do?
You know, you're a racist piece of shit.
Good one.
Yeah.
Well done. Is that it? Have you come to do anything? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Fucking little... Fucking little prick.
He spits in my face. So I punch him, put him on his arse.
Get your fucking arse up before I fucking do you. Yeah? You've made... Yeah, well done. Well done. Go on, babe. What, you gonna do anything else? Spit at me again. Spit at me again. Don't fucking spit at people, you little tramp. Fucking tramp.
Spreading hate crime and it's not right.
Spreading hate crime? You just come up and spat in my face. Don't talk to me about hate.
After you started having a go about Muslims.
No, you had a go. You called me a racist. I said who am I racist against? You just learned a lesson in life. Don't fucking mouth off when you can't handle it.
As I put him on his arse, then I think, fucking hell, man. And I get in the car and I drive back to Mo's with my mate, yeah? I drive back to Mo's and the footage on the documentary is hilarious. I drive back to Mo's, I go up to Mo's, my mate's waiting outside, I sit down with the family and say, yeah, I've just punched someone up in the car park down the road. And they're like, what? And then blue lights will go outside. And the blue lights are outside and my mate rings me and says, mate, I'm surrounded by the police in the car, they're going to smash the car window. And I start laughing. And my cameraman's like, what? It was his first week, the cameraman's first week. He's standing there and he's like, what do I do with the footage? I said, give me the footage. So I take the card out and I put the card somewhere where the police won't get it.
Self-defence. Well, it's ridiculous. They're welcome to Barrow.
Yeah. Welcome to Barrow.
You're getting called a nonce as I walk out.
Yeah, I know. Did you get that?
Some girl just pulled up as I walked in, screamed racist at me.
Yeah.
And Mo is sitting there, we've just met, and he's like, Tommy, do you want me to get you in the boot out the back? Yeah. Mo's offering to escape me from the police. My head's going, then they're going to raid the house. Getting nicked.
We'll take you out the back. We'll smuggle you out the back. We'll smuggle you out the back, Tommy.
I've got a spare room.
I told you to stay here tonight, didn't I? I told you.
And then I'm laughing, looking out the window. It's all on the documentary. And the blue lights are everywhere. And Mo sat there, I said, I'm just going to have myself in. I said, Mo, we need to continue these conversations, yeah? But I said, like, I'm finding out lots of stuff. So then I get arrested. And when I'm arrested, I'm sitting there And I'm thinking it's all right, everything's all right. And my cameraman's first week. And Mo takes the camera. As all this is going on, Mo grabs the camera and puts the camera on the cameraman. Because he's like that. And I say to him, have you ever been arrested? He says, no, never. You're about to be arrested. It's fucking world shattering. Mo's like, we're laughing our heads off at the same time. I'm then arrested, get taken down to custody. And I'm thinking, it don't matter. I've given him a couple of slaps. He spat in my face. I've got the footage of him spitting in my face. It doesn't matter. I speak to my kid's mum. I ring home and she's crying. I'm like, what are you crying for? She's like, you're getting remanded. So what do you mean I'm getting remanded? I give him a slap. He said he's got a broken leg. I went, what? And he's broke his leg. So in the furor of this, he's broke his leg anyway.
Oh, shit.
So she said, you're on a GBH Section 18 hate crime. I said, hate crime?
He's white, was he? Or?
Yeah, he said I called him non-binary before I hit him.
He spat in your face, went non-binary.
Non-binary, right. And he talked about all the help he does for the LGBTQ plus community. In his statement, what I find out, his mum and dad fund the police. His mum and dad give £500,000 to the police. So
why does that always happen to you?
I know. I know.
You must be the unluckiest person to get the scrap of ever.
This leads into the Black Lives Matter protests, yeah? Because I go home, I get let out, and while we're in the...
Did they accept that, by the way, that he'd...
I was charged with it, yeah. Yeah, so they interviewed me.
So you went non-binary.
By the time they interviewed me, we're further arresting you for GBH Section 18, hate crime. And I'm sitting thinking, yeah, none of this matters because I've got this card.
Yeah.
Mugs. And then I said, I'd already been told I'm getting remanded. So I said, by the way, lads, if you remand me, I've got the footage.
Yeah.
They said, we've got the footage. I said, no, you haven't. The footage is in the cloud. I've got the footage. Yeah? So I'll release the footage from prison, which proves everything he's saying is a lie.
Yeah.
He spits in my face.
Yeah.
It was self-defense. Yeah. I didn't mention non-binary, so he's lying. Yeah. And I can prove that. So if you want to remand me, you're going to look like idiots. They then bail me. But whilst we're in the cells, my cameraman's name was Paul. And my mate Ches is with me, who's just a clown anyway. So Ches has pressed the button and said, how's Simon? It's the first time he's ever been nicked.
Right.
And the cop was like, Simon? He goes, yeah, the bald fella, Simon. He goes, he said his name was Paul. Yeah. So they've then got into his cell and said, what's your name? And he's like, Paul. And he's absolutely shitting himself. Your name's Simon. He's thinking, no, it's not. But it's my mate wind them up. And my mate shouted to me in the cell. We're both laughing. We get let out on bail. I get let out on bail. I get home. I'm crap at computers. I ring my mate who works as another camera lad. I said, get round here. He puts the memory stick in. It's blank.
Oh, fuck.
So the cameraman's deleted it. So when he's panicking upstairs, he's deleted the footage. I literally sat down. I would have been teary. My family are there. I was like, I'm on GBH Section 18 charge for a hate crime. And I have punched him up. And he's going to say I called him non-binary. I'm in trouble. I'm in total trouble.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at it, and Black Lives Matter are hitting off, and they're protesting in London. And I went on a rant about Black Lives Matter from this. This was the moment. I was like, you motherfuckers, stop smashing up our statues.
Where did you do it? On Twitter?
I done it on a Russian social media that had 10,000 followers on. But it went viral, yeah? It went viral. It's viral all over everywhere. And I'm now the face against Black Lives Matter in the UK from this. So, but to explain my emotions of why I was angry, why I was upset, it was going off the back of this. I gave that memory stick to a forensic expert.
Right.
They got the footage.
Oh, they recovered it?
Yeah, they recovered it.
Oh, amazing.
They recovered it. The man didn't get charged with perverting the course of justice. So when I had to answer bail, what I'd done is they then raided my house. They raided my ex-wife's because she was the owner of the company. They were still trying to get the footage.
Right.
And I was releasing 10-second clips of the footage, online, proving that you wankers have got me on a GBH charge.
Yeah.
Here he is spitting.
Yeah.
There's no mention of non-binary.
Yeah.
I'm on a hate crime. What for?
Yeah.
And then when I went up, they dropped the case against me. They dropped it all. I said, it's all very well dropping it, but he lied to you.
Yeah.
He put me on a hate crime.
Yeah.
He should be charged. But this video goes viral about Black Lives Matter, man. It goes viral everywhere.
So there's an incident that occurs, you're wound up, and then off that you ping into a rant, and then that becomes the thing.
That becomes the story. But then at the same time, the police, while they got me on their GBH charge, they banned me from the entire area of Barrow where I'm doing my investigation.
Right.
And they banned me from talking about child exploitation. Now, what this does in my bail conditions, which they held me for months on, it left Mo and his family, I weren't allowed to talk about it. So I know she's lying.
Yeah.
But I've got all the footage that proves that. So I had to then wait until the court case was over for Mo.
Yeah.
So it comes out breaking news that the girl had lied. The politician says Tommy Robinson's son come up here, and Mo Rami goes out and says, no, actually, Tommy Robinson was the only man who offered us help.
Yeah.
So the Muslim lad comes out and said, and me and him done a podcast with James English.
Nice.
We've become good mates. Yeah, he's a funny lad, right? But and he says he's the only one who helped me. None of you helped me. Politicians didn't help me. Media certainly didn't help me. And then I released my documentary, which is the total opposite. And because I had the footage all dated, you can see my thoughts at the time.
Right.
And at the time, I say she's lying.
Yeah.
These lads are getting their lives ruined. We've got to investigate it, but we've got to stop this. Yeah.
Right.
So my intentions in my film show that my journalist, if I do an investigation, it goes against what I think. It's the truth. I'm here to find the truth. The truth's the truth. And then the Black Lives Matter thing. I remember my son, he was probably 10 at the time, yeah? And he come down the stairs and he said, Dad. I said, yeah. He goes, OFB had put a price on you. I said, who the fuck are OFB?
Yeah.
Original Farm Boys. They're the biggest gang out of London. I went, oh, fuck's sake. Because he's watching all that little rap music at that age.
Yeah.
They've come out, put a hit on me. Everyone's got me as the face. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I've gone from the Islam thing to now Black Lives Matter.
You're just pissing everybody off now.
Yeah, I'm working my way round. But it was a bad moment. My car got blown up. We had to leave the country. Yeah. My kids had to leave the country at that time. It got spray painted BLM on it, petrol bombed. Because I'd always kept my circle is the black circles.
Yeah.
I'm in the black circles in Luton. I move in those circles, all my mates. So everyone knows where I am.
Yeah.
I keep it secret from the Islamic lot, or where my family were. So we had to move again. But that was...
So I noticed, because I met you first with Professor Ed Dutton, you have part of your security is black as well, right?
Yeah.
And these are lads you grew up with, presumably.
Yeah, mates, yeah. So when I had the English Defence League, so we set up the English Defence League and chaos was going on. Chaos was going on. There was like 30, 40 fire bombings locally in Luton. There was tit for tats as when the English Defence League formed. Everyone, and I remember people talking about getting militant in the EDL. And then this is why I had such a strong feeling. If you look through the EDL, the entire time I led the English Defence League, the Metropolitan Policing Unit have a unit, domestic extremism unit, whose job it is to categorise groups like the BNP, National Front, EDL. The whole time I led it, the EDL was a centrist organisation. Never deemed us far right. Never once.
They didn't deem you as far right?
No, the media did. So the media told you it was far right, so now it's just far right. Everyone now takes that the English Defence League was a far right extremist organisation. No, it wasn't, and the police never categorised it once as that. Their job was to categorise groups like that, and they said it was a centrist organisation. They advised Muslims to cooperate and talk to the English Defence League and negotiate.
Do you consider yourself, do you have right-wing, left-wing, centrist views?
No, I think everyone who's normal has some left-wing views, some right-wing views.
Yep.
So my family would have always been Labour voters.
Right.
I'm not a Tory.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you.
They just tell us. They just say you're far right. And then that's it.
So you're from Luton, it's a working class background, and I was like, so are your family Tories then? Because that wouldn't make sense to me at all.
No, Labour.
It's the same where I'm from, it's always
yeah, Liverpool, Labour. It's all Labour. Everyone's anti-Tory.
So, okay, in this day and age, what does it mean to be far right? What does that label even mean now?
It means you're white and British at the minute. That's what it means now.
That's the biggest crime.
That's what it means now.
You've got
an opinion about immigration.
You've got an opinion whilst white.
Whilst white and British. Now you're far right. You're a racist. And people sit...
That means I'm far right. I have an opinion and I'm white.
You're sitting next to me. You're definitely far right. After this, yeah, you're a far right racist extremist.
Well, there
you're
we
an
go.
Islamophobe. You're
I bet if I'm a Muslim, mate, so I'll be like, sorry, lads.
Yeah, you've ticked every box now, bruv. And do you know what? From the start of the English Defence League, from the start of my activism, I said I'll sit and negotiate and talk and debate with anyone.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind, everyone who watches the little clips of me online, you see confrontations.
Yeah.
That go viral.
They love that.
But you don't see the other side.
Right.
And the vast majority, in fact, up until 2 weeks ago when the government put another target on my back over the riots, Muslims don't really give me a hard time, man. Per se. Young Muslims, which I expect them to, yeah, because I would if I was a young Muslim.
Yeah.
If I was a young Muslim, like I wanted to confront Al-Majruddin as a young English lad, I don't blame young Muslims who would see me as a figurehead that deserves confrontation.
Avatar, yeah.
I deserve a confrontation.
Yeah,
I've said things about their ideology, their religion.
Yeah.
They've been told I hate them all. They've been told I'm racist. So I don't blame them. But even per se with that, the majority, all right, Tommy, what's going on, bruv?
They're sound.
Yeah, they're sound. They disagree with me, and I have many of them shake. I had some of their main lads in Luton. I remember walking through town, come up to me and said, Tommy, he shook my hand. He said, I hate you. Yeah. but I actually respect you.
Right.
He said, because you stand on your principles, bruv. You don't back down. You're telling us what you think.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but what I think doesn't mean I hate you, bruv. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I hate... You know, look, I may disagree with the full niqab. If a woman's wearing a niqab, I'm going to hold a door open for her.
Yeah.
I don't hate her.
Yeah.
In fact, I think she's a victim.
Yeah.
And so per se, and I will, many Muslims I've had sit down and say, Tommy, man, the things you're annoyed with, I'm annoyed with.
Would you support, but if a woman wants to wear niqab or she wants to wear hijab, do you care if they want to do that?
I don't think they should.
Yeah.
I believe it's putting them in a position of enslavement. I believe that it's the husband making the decision a lot of the time.
It's not really from her.
It's not from her.
Okay.
I don't believe we should. I believe these women should be protected in British society. I believe that we should put mechanisms in to protect them, to prevent these things happening. I never ever viewed, I always viewed it from a non-Muslim perspective. So when I talk about grooming, I talk about our girls, non-Muslim girls. Yeah? When I talk about attacks, I talk about non-Muslim girls. And there was a girl in my hometown, I'm not going to name her. She ended up going out one of the top Pakistanis. She got a big prison sentence for heroin dealing. She did. She used to wear the full niqab. Yeah, white girl, beautiful girl growing up. She ended up one of them. When Lee Rigby got beheaded, she contacted me and said, Yax, I need to do a video. I need to speak up. She said, what you don't realise is, in every house where I was, there's a Muslim woman in that room being beaten. Yeah, and she hasn't got a passport. She can't leave. Yeah? She said, I'm telling you, in literally every house, the Muslim women are slaves, can't leave. They've got nowhere to turn. They can't speak English.
I'll ask a controversial question that could potentially get us both in trouble. Is that something to do with intrinsic to Islamic culture? Is it an interpretation of Pakistani Islamic culture? What do you think?
So I never understood. I used to blame a lot of things on Pakistani. Yeah, because growing up, I thought, well, these lot are different. Didn't know much about Islam.
Yeah.
These lot are different. Until I started looking into Islam. These lot are fundamentally very different to us. They're hostile, they're aggressive, they're a pack. You mess with one, you might as well call it on with the entire fucking town. Yeah? They're there. They all come together over everything. So you grow up learning that pretty quick. Pretty sharp, you learn that. But she said that in each room, the women can't leave, their passports are taken, can't speak English, nowhere to turn, and she wanted to speak up for them. And I never thought about that until, and then when I started doing I've done a 5-part series called The Rape of Britain, looking at Telford. And I went to Telford, and everyone was warning me about Telford. When I was going up there, everyone was like, you need to be careful, yeah? I said, fucking 1.7.
How much more did that make you want to go?
Yeah, well, no, I looked here and thought, you're all mugs. 1.7% of Telford is Muslim. 50% of Luton. We had battles with them. When we didn't back down to them at that stage, yeah?
Yeah.
How come you're all letting them run the town? I couldn't get it. How come the English lads here are letting this 1.7% mafia? Because when I got into it, they went and burned it. They blew my car up in Telford as well. They went to my mum's house. When I started looking at them all, do you know how many women from their community contacted me? When I started doing my investigation and put it out. And then I started realising, fuck, man, they're raping their own daughters. They're raping their own daughters.
In Telford?
In Telford. Some of the men I was investigating are raping their own daughters. And some of the women stuck, the Muslim girls, I was contacted by so many.
And do you think that's an Islamic problem?
I believe, well, yeah, a woman is worth half of a man in the Quran. She's the possession of a man. Winston Churchill made statements like this, which weren't deemed as Islamophobic or extreme. He said Mohammedans will always bring society backwards because they were called Mohammedans, followers of Islam. Yeah. He said they believe the woman is a property of a man. A woman is worth half, especially non-Muslim women. So, yeah. I believe that it's an Islamic problem, and Muhammad, their prophet, enslaved women, raped them. His wife was 6 years old, and he had sex with her when she was 9. I don't even like calling it sex, but I know you'll probably get the buzzword for the word rape. You might have to beat that out, but he raped her at 9 years old. Yeah? This is not a perfect human being. He took, and when you look, so say for example, this entire community you believe in this man is the moral compass for the world. Yeah? Well, that man. And took a Jewish tribe, the Quraysh tribe, surrendered. Yeah, and this is why it's important, because the teachings of Islam are very important, because when they surrendered, this Jewish tribe, he took all the men and he pulled their pants down. His team did, and whoever had started puberty was beheaded. Right. So that's because in Islam, when you start puberty, you become an adult. So if a girl starts a period at 9 or 10, she's a woman now. Yeah, she's not a child anymore. Yeah. So and he beheaded and killed whoever had started puberty. Now the Peshawar school attack and the Beslan, that's what they done. They took the teachings of Muhammad and what he done, And then they done that. So they done that in Peshawar. They attacked the school, but in their minds, they're not attacking school children because they're attacking enemy combatants once they start puberty. Enemy combatants, yeah? So...
Isn't that's got to be a corrupted... Because they're not combatants, they're just kids.
Yeah, but they're legit, they're not kids, because once they start puberty, they become adults. So they're adults, so they're fair game as targets. So yes, I remember having meetings with my children's school. Yeah. When I had meetings with my children's school, there were threats to my family, threats at the school. Other parents were concerned at the school. I remember going in and sitting down with the teacher saying, "You're going to think I'm mad here. Yeah? They're all this big. I'm telling you, there's no risk. Yeah." Under Islamic rules, they could not come in here and purposely target prepubescent children. Yeah, that's the rules of engagement.
Yeah,
they can't. Now, when the children get to high school, we might have a different worry here. Yeah, but they're not coming in. They're not coming in for the school children. Okay, but then they're not classed them as school children. So what Muhammad done is the Jews surrendered. Kinana was the leader of the tribe, and Sophia. He took Sophia, after beheading 600 of them, that night he took Sophia, whose husband and father he killed, as his bride that night. Well, you think this man's perfect? This is a barbarian warlord who's enslaving women and raping them. And when you look at that, and no one wants to have this conversation, you're not even allowed to have this conversation. The statistics show that Muslim men make up 2.5% of the UK population. They're responsible for 90% of the convictions of groups of men who in groups. Yeah? Why? Why are the Sikhs not doing it? Why are the Hindus not doing it? Why did the West Indians not do it? Why is no other community doing this? Yes, there's deranged individuals, but not brothers and fathers raping kids together. Yeah, sons and fathers are raping kids together in the Islamic community.
Yes.
This is they're viewing it very differently. So until you can get your mind into their mindset and look at the world through the lens through Islam and through Muhammad, then you understand why they see it as okay.
Would you be up for sitting down and having a discussion if I could find an imam or an Islamic scholar? Would you do that if I was moderating?
1,000,000%. Yeah, and not just do it, the world needs to see it. Yeah,
okay.
Because these discussions shouldn't be hidden. They shouldn't be. What the government have currently done is they've done it with grooming for 30 years. Hide it.
Yes.
Now they're doing it with immigration. Blame it all on the far right. Hide it. The public are angry. The public are upset. You hiding it and putting it under the carpet, you will build more anger and more resentment.
This is 100% true, and it's one of the big things I wanted to talk to you about. I'm frightened that what could happen, you know, you've got some left-wing views, some right-wing views, the EDL was classed as centrist. Aren't you worried we could swing all the way right? And then people could take your words and say, we've got to get the Muslims out. People we know could have ended up on buses and in internment camps.
So I'm worried because I believe, and I said when I left I made my own decision to leave the English Defence League in 2015. And I made that decision because we had marched up and down the country highlighting issues that no one would talk about. As I said about Andrew Norfolk, he took all the awards, but Andrew Norfolk's words were, he knew about the grooming, he knew about it, yeah? But because it was Pakistani Muslim men and all the victims were white, he was too worried to talk about it. But then he saw the emergence of the far right, which is the fathers and brothers, English men. Yeah? They want to call it all far right. The English Defence League had a Jewish division, a Sikh division, a Hindu division. We had Sikh leadership, many blacks. We were open for everyone. We actually had Muslims in the English Defence League, yeah? But we wanted to highlight these problems. So his words were he was forced and he wanted to take the narrative back from the far right. So I'm very happy. You can call us far right. In fact, tattoo it on my forehead if you want. We forced Andrew Norfolk into reporting on this. We forced the government to deal with this. There was no such word as grooming until the English Defence League formed. If you draw a graph of the arrest rates for Muslims for these rapes, in 2009, there's a straight graph, 2006, 7, 8, 9. We formed in 2009. By 2010, 11, the arrests are going through the roof. Thousands of young Englishmen were on the streets of every town and city screaming. We had black banners saying our daughters are not halal meat. All the cities, I done this for a speech I gave in Russia.
It's like, it could be reframed as a social justice movement.
It was it was highlighting issues that no one talked about. Two-tier policing, go back and get my interviews from 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Two-tier policing has now become part of the vocabulary of the British public.
Yes.
Well, we were trying to tell you about it 15 years ago. Yeah?
I first heard it when I went to the event at yours. Like, I was like, what the fuck is two-tier? And somebody explained it to me and I was like, oh, okay.
But now everyone sees it. Now Suella Braverman talks about it. She lost her job for it. But now everyone knows it. Everyone in the country is seeing a politicised judiciary, weaponised judiciary since the riots. Everyone can see it now. Well, what you're seeing now is what we've lived under already for 20 years. The Conservative Party wanting to hide it more, but they're exactly the same. They're Keir Starmer just doesn't really care. He's coming down and crushing everyone. And they think by crushing everyone as they are now, trying to set an example of young British men, pensioners, mothers of 5 going to jail for shouting.
Yeah.
Like insane. Yeah. Insane. We don't jail for half the stuff, but they're trying to crush a growing resentment and anger of the British public at open border mass immigration.
Would you resist anything that became like white supremacist, ethnocentric, Nazi style?
I am the most vocal voice of resistance to them. So don't.
Is that a real thing, or is that a boogeyman? I mean, do we have that in the UK?
It's growing.
It's growing.
It's growing.
And it'll be white, Christian, anti-Muslim, and violent.
So groups like National Action, who are now prescribed by the government as a terrorist organisation, groups like Patriotic Alternative, their worldview or their view is an ethno-state.
It's an ethno-state.
Total ethno-state.
And you would resist that?
I totally resist it. I totally resist. I am the most vocal.
You're telling me you're fucking racist.
I know. I am the most vocal voice against this. I'm known as a Zionist, race-traiting, multicultural loving wrong'un by those groups. In fact, they hate me. I'm the biggest.
Who likes you, Tommy?
Who likes me? My son, he's over there.
Yes, you got your family. You got a few mates.
Yeah, I got a few mates.
So the ethnocentric ones absolutely see you as a race traitor.
I'm a total traitor to them. Yeah. And it's easy to throw everything, because I don't hate Israel and I don't hate the Jews. Yeah, I don't hate them. Yeah? In fact, to be a Zionist, I wear that. Yeah. To be a Zionist, they changed the meaning of it now. But to be a Zionist means you believe in a homeland for the Jewish people. Yeah. There's 55 Islamic nations. Well, can't the Jews have one? Can't the Jews have one without being massacred and murdered? That's my view. And I also understand jihad. So I understand where Israel is and who surrounds it and the mindset that surrounds it. They've got no choice. You are dealing with people who wish to enslave your daughters, rape them, pillage you. Look what happened on October 7th. Look how it emboldened the jihadist mindset and the voices of pro-Hamas come across the entire Western nations, in universities everywhere. The hatred of Jews. So first of all, because 7% of Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's book, which is banned in many countries, it actually sells best in Islamic nations, yeah? But it's banned in most countries. 7% of that is Jew hatred, 11% the Quran. Take Israel off the map.
Sorry, just to be clear, 11% of the Quran is slamming Jews.
It's slamming Jews.
And
7%
and only 7% of Mein Kampf
is slamming Jews.
The same thing.
Yeah, and one's banned and one's actually celebrated and pushed and propagandas.
They kept sending it to me. People, because I was talking about some elements of Islamic philosophy, and loads of people were sending me Qurans, and I had them in the office in Liverpool, and occasionally I'd flip through them and I'd just be like, wow, you really don't like Jews. There's just pages and pages. The Jews did this, we gave them money, they stole it, over and over and
what
over
you're witnessing
again.
now is an alignment of the anti-Jew hatred coming from the Nazis, the ethnos, yeah,
right,
and the Muslims are coming together. They're all sitting together now on this. Yeah,
so they can be unified.
They're unified, and the far left, and they're all focusing. Everything and anything is the Jews. So now the riots were Zionists. The riots were led by Zionists. Literally everything, yeah. Which when you've got a distrust in the media, they blame everything on the Jews. Which when you've got a massive distrust in the media, which we have, no one believes everything. You don't know what to believe now when you see it. Everything's a lie. Yeah? I showed this in my latest documentary. Everything's a lie. They're showing us. So it's easy to throw in and make people believe that other people are propagating, or terrorist attacks were false flags. People are questioning everything.
Yeah.
So, but on the Jew front, it's like, and on the Quran front, you know what they were doing to you there? When I was doing 22 weeks of solitary confinement in 2011, and a Muslim outreach organisation sent me the Quran. So I thought, right, I'm here, I'm on my own, I've got a lot of time, let's have a look at this. Yeah? So I started looking through the Quran, and I'll ask anyone watching this, do this. Yeah? Pick up the Quran, open it up, and write down verse numbers that tell you not to be friends with Christians or Jews.
Right.
You will have pages and pages and pages. Yeah. And I sat there going through it, and it was like a jigsaw. All the bits just come together. And everything I'd seen growing up in Luton just made sense. Thought, well, if you're taught this, and on the Quran, if you're taught this, and the Quran is an encrypted book currently. When William Gladstone, Winston Churchill, in the early 30s, in those years, in the early 1900s, the Quran was in chronological order. It's not now. Yeah? You can't buy a Quran that's in chronological order. Yeah?
I didn't know that.
So as in one thing Muhammad says one day, if the one you pick up now, go to anywhere and pick up the Quran. What he says one day is next to something he said 20 years later. You can't make sense of it. It's impossible. Now what they use, abrogation, the laws of Islam, abrogation. So if there's two conflicting statements by Muhammad, if he says love the Jews and then he says kill the Jews, well, which one comes first? Well, if he says kill the Jews later in his life, that supersedes what he says earlier.
Whatever he said as a more mature man is the thing that we take.
It's the thing that we take. So what I done, is I wrote a Quran. I'll give you it. I'll give you one. Yeah. It's called Muhammad's Quran: Why Muslims Kill for Islam. Yeah. And in fact, there was a terrorist who went on trial from Luton, and he used my Quran. Yeah. And he said, I swear to God. Yeah. Google it. Yeah. Google it. Yeah. What he says is he said Tommy Robinson gets it. That's what the jihadist said. Tommy Robinson gets it. Yeah. This is why we're doing it. Right? So what we done is we took and we gave an introduction in that Quran that takes every wartime leader, previous world leader, religious leader throughout history. There's never been talk about an interpretation of Islam. Islam's always been spoken about as a warlike religion and warlike mindset. Muhammad has always been referenced as a warrior, not a prophet or a peaceful, loving man. You know the term Islam is a religion of peace? It's never said. Try and find it in history.
No, etymologically, I've asked Arabic speakers about this. The predominant meaning of Islam is submission.
Submit.
There is an element of the word salam, but it's secondary, which does mean peace, but it's peace through submission.
Yeah,
only peace after.
But there's no
submission first, peace later.
Yeah, you submit and give in, or we'll chop your head off, and then we'll have some peace. But literally, Islam is a religion of peace was never said until George W. Bush said it. And then it's literally like English Defence League is far right. They keep saying it becomes far right.
Yeah.
Islam, it's literally gaslighting us. Someone quotes the Quran and beheads someone and they tell us it's religion of peace. Now, I took the Quran and we went through Islamic historians and Islamic scholars and we put the Quran in the chronological order that they say it's in, yeah? And when you put it in chronological order, what we done in the book, to make it easy for you, is every verse that talks about violence, war, rape, any of them, because there's 4 verses in there that tell them they can rape non-Muslim women, yeah? They can take them.
I didn't know that.
One of the verses actually says you're blameless. You're blameless, yeah? So, and that's what's used to, that's what I say we have to look and have an investigation into, is this the reason that we have grooming gangs? Is this the reason the men view it? Is it cultural or is it religious? I'm not answering that question. I'm saying we need to ask it, yeah? But when you put it in chronological order, so we used every war or every violent verse and put them in bold writing. So literally when you open the book, you see all the bold writing, it's in your face, the war. And then when you get through, we put it in the right order. So what Muhammad says later, and then every peaceful verse in the Quran has got a little line through it. And then afterwards it says which verse, this is what we've done, which verse, according to an Islamic scholar, not me, some of the most renowned Islamic scholars in the world, Ibn Ishaq, these scholars which are the most recognised in the Islamic world, it has the verse number which supersedes it. So when you read a peaceful verse, then you flick over and you read the other verse which supersedes it. Yeah?
Right.
So it's making it because we need to understand Islam.
Yeah.
And none of our politicians do. Gavin Suker was my local Labour MP. When we started the English Defence League, he was the local MP. And he held a Celebrate Mohammed Day in Parliament. And I saw him in a chicken shop in Luton. So I went up to him in a chicken shop. I said, Gavin, can I ask you a few questions? He was like, oh, shit himself. I said, look, you held a Celebrate Mohammed Day. Yes. Why did you do that? He said, well, Muslims, they all worship Muhammad. Muhammad was a perfect man for them. I said, okay. So you've done it because people like him. I said, lots of people like Hitler. Yeah, but did you look at what Muhammad's done? Did you know anything? Tell me about Muhammad's life. He just looked like, I said, you don't know anything. So you call me ignorant. You call us ignorant. You held a Celebrate Mohammed Day without knowing anything about what Muhammad done. I said, it's insane. Yeah, he murdered, he pillaged, he's a bloodthirsty warrior. Why are you holding celebration days in our parliament for him? So most people are ignorant to this. Many Muslims are ignorant to it. They don't like and also the Islamophobia phrase is given to protect it from criticism. If there's an ideology which is growing in our nation, which is fundamentally supremacist against non-Muslims, we need to talk about it.
So back to this thing of Islam existing peacefully in the UK.
I wish it could. I wish Islam was like Sikhism. Sikhism's a beautiful, wonderful religion. Hinduism. I really wish, because my life would be very much different. But if I look at history and look at Islam and look at the teachings and look at the Salafism, Wahhabism, the fastest growing sect, Deobandi, is the future of this country. And I'll tell you why I know that. When I was leading EDL, Tom Robinson, ironically named as well, was the Bishop of Pontefract. So the Bishop of Pontefract called us for a meeting with the future leaders of Islam in Britain. They were Deobandi scholars. Yeah, Deobandi is a very conservative, real, strong Islam. Yeah, it's not peaceful, it's not moderate, it's very, women are wearing niqabs, separate from the Muslims. And I went to this meeting and sat around this table. It was in a church in Derby. And me and my cousin went, and they brought in these scholars. One of them had just come from the Golden Dome Mosque in Jerusalem, from preaching at it, yeah? And they said, right, this is an opportunity for us all to tell us what's wrong. I said, really? Okay, because I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong. And we sat down with their leaders, who were very polite. And the Bishop of Pontefract started off, and he had another reverend there, who was a very nice man, who said, what we're doing to bring the community together. You know all these stupid diversity photos they keep doing? Church leaders with imam leaders, and they do a photo and pretend the world's great, and it's not, it's bullshit. So they said, we held a Christmas event where we brought the Muslims and the non-Muslims together for a Christmas meal. I said, okay, did you have wine at that Christmas meal? And he went, well, no, we didn't. I said, so you had a Sharia-compliant Christmas meal because they don't like wine. You mug, yeah? Basically, you're a joke, right? You are bending every time, yeah? We don't want to bend. I don't want my culture to change. I don't want us to change for them, yeah? If they're guests in our nation, which have been invited, remember there's 1,000 years of English Christian history here.
Yeah.
If guests have been invited into our country, which many have, yeah? Many have integrated and assimilated, some have declared war, yeah? But if they're guests, they need to adapt. We're not going to adapt to everything. You're not changing everything to suit Islam.
I've lived in Malaysia, which is a Muslim country. I lived in the United Arab Emirates, and you're allowed to stay, but you live over a trapdoor, basically. If you fuck up,
You're gone.
and you don't adhere, and I don't have a problem adhering
that's
because
right, though.
it's their country.
That's
it's
right.
their laws. It's whatever they say goes, and I'm happy with that. If you were made the benevolent dictator of the UK, what would you do with Muslims? Or what would you do with Islam? Would you ban it? Would you?
No, so when people say this, because you see, I've never called for the deportation of all Muslims in the UK. Never, ever have I said that. Because that would mean deporting some people I love.
Yeah.
So I don't want that, okay? But what I do want, I want an end to, well, I've always said I want an end to Islamic immigration. I currently believe with the demographical changes in this nation, we need to stop immigration right now. Stop it, yeah? But with Islam...
Islamic or all immigration?
I think we need to have a points-based system, but totally stop Islamic.
Okay.
We don't, because you're mixing oil and water. It doesn't work.
Okay.
Bringing more people in from the Middle East. Afghanistan, 90% of the public in Afghanistan want Sharia law. So every Afghani migrant that's coming into our country, if 10 of them are coming in, and there's more than 10 every day, hundreds of them are coming in every day. Yeah? They're the ones we know about, probably thousands. 9 out of 10 of them want Sharia law. They don't leave that at the border.
Yeah.
They bring it in. They bring their intolerant views of women with them.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about this. In fact, what the government just did recently with branding all the protesters as far-right racists is they've escaped from having to talk about the problems. So you know there was riots in Tamworth at the hotel. What they don't tell you is one of the Muslim migrants at that hotel raped an English girl in the town. Yeah? That's a fact.
Right.
When there was trouble in Hartlepool, what they don't tell you is one of the migrants left the hotel and stabbed someone to death, an old age pensioner, a British man walking down the street shouting it was for Palestine. Yeah? They don't tell you that. What they don't tell you is that in Great Yarmouth, other migrants have left the hotels and women there. They don't tell you in Oxford that an Oxford student walking home whose father I've spoke to, they raped her and all. So the British public are angry, and they're angry for a reason. And what they've done is just mask over the whole, they've tried to bandage the whole thing as far right. And all that's going to do, it's not going to go away because they're continually bringing them in. And the people they're bringing in are hostile, they're aggressive, not all of them, of course, but they're middle-aged, they're fighting-age men. This would be a different argument if those hotels were full of women and children.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Would I even, the Bishop family, so when I was 11 and 12, and again, I can speak from experience of growing up, when I was 11 or 12 with the Bosnian conflict, the Bishop family in my road lived at the top of my road, Sonia and Ray Bishop, son called Scott. They were the first ones to take a family in from Bosnia.
Yeah.
A mum, a son, and a daughter.
Yeah.
Their father had been murdered.
Yeah.
Real refugees.
Yeah.
Muslims, yeah?
Yeah.
Very liberal Muslims from Bosnia. Brought in, do you know that lad and his sister have gone on to be outstanding members of British society. Went to my school, grew up with loads of non-Muslims, excelled in life, business owner. You can sit at that family and you would be proud of what we done for that family. Yeah?
Yeah.
What we're seeing now, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, Eritrea, middle-aged men coming in. There's not even a chance for assimilation or integration. There's not going to be, yeah? And taking the rights over British citizens who can't afford heating. Even my mum was just about to get a winter allowance for the first time. And Keir Starmer's come in and took it, whilst giving 4-star hotels to migrants who have put nothing into this country. People are fed up. Can't get a dentist appointment, can't get a doctor's appointment. They have 24-hour nurses in their hotels. Like, our family can't do it. And people, that resentment, that anger, it's not going to go away, but they're speeding up the acceleration, which is population replacement, whether people like it or not. We're being replaced as a population by a migrant community they're being brought in. And They don't want to talk about the problems of that. And again, we need to talk about the problems of that. And they've controlled the conversation around this through censorship on YouTube, censorship on Facebook, censorship on all these social medias. Now Elon Musk is a big problem for them because now people can have this discussion. And as I said, I'd love to get any Islamic scholar. I'll sit down.
You'll chat to them.
I'll chat to them. Let's have a proper discussion on Islam, on what he wants for Islam.
Yeah.
Because I already know where it's going to go. I know because I led the English Defence League, left the English Defence League 2014. In my local town, I'd been banging my head against the Luton Islamic Centre. That's the Salafist Wahhabist centre, Saudi funded. Yeah? They're the ones all the English converts go to. The Stockholm bomber was from there. So I've been banging my head against it. Luton's council, in response to the English Defence League, set up a programme called Luton in Harmony. Who was head of this? The imam from that mosque. Yeah? I translated 20 pages on their website. 10 pages were for why a woman should be lashed for adultery, why homosexuals should be executed. So I know about this mosque and how radical it is. And here they are sitting around the Luton in Harmony desk with all my council. They're on the inside of the room and we're on the outside. Yeah, we're on the outside seen as extremists, and here they are. And as I'm walking through, I left the English Defence League. On my local radio station was Kadir Bask, the imam from that mosque, having a discussion with a gay producer, radio producer, about me, the extremist English Defence League leader, leaving. Yeah? I walked into the studio. You can watch the video. I walked in and he goes, well, Tommy Robinson is from Luton. He's just walked in.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I've just walked in. Let me sit down. Let me ask him some questions. And Kadir Bask, bearing in mind I knew who he was, I said, let me ask you, Kadir, because let's ask each other some questions, yeah? And he's like, okay. In your ideal society, because you have to ask them the right questions in the right way. In your ideal society, not Great Britain, but the way you want society to be, would there be a punishment for homosexuality? Yes, there would. Okay, tell him what the punishment would be, because he's gay. Let him know. You'll kill him, wouldn't you? In your ideal society, he'd be dead, wouldn't he? Yeah? He'd be dead. From this conversation, Pink News took it up. Yeah? They reported it. They raided. Kadir was the head teacher of a school. They raided the school. They found books on cutting off hands and feet.
Jesus.
They found all this extreme stuff in the school. Yeah, I've had a whistleblower, a girl who went to that school, who's talked to me of what they were doing in this school to the kids, the Muslim pupils. Yeah, so and from that so I've then been fighting against this mosque, and I'm not saying there are some. I've had some great Dawood Masood, young imam. There's lots of there's more liberal Muslims that could have the voice, but the council always give the silver-tongued Salafist Wahhabist speaker are the ones who are put forward, and they actually build them up in the community. And then you remember Khalid Masood on Westminster Bridge when he done the terrorist attack. Guess where he worked? Luton Islamic Centre. So when that happened, the Sunday Times, all of them are ringing me.
Yeah.
All their journalists are ringing me. What do you know? I said, I know everything.
Yeah.
Their secret school is in this estate.
Yeah.
Here's where they are. Yeah. I know everything about every one of them because it was my job to find out, because they were the mafia. Yeah. So if I was going to get targeted, it's them.
Yeah.
I know who they are. So I'd done my homework on every one of them. And then I had the journalists ringing me. What do you know? I said, here's who they are. Here's what they're doing. But then this is where you want to know how deep the problem is, how embedded in our system they are. When I was leading the English Defence League as well, the local councillor, her name was Joan Bailey. Yeah. Now, my friend was in a children's home, and he always said how nice she was. Yeah? She's a Lutonian. Most people who work in our councils aren't from Luton. Yeah?
Right.
And again, when I set up the English Defence League, 2 years in, a year in, they called us for a meeting in the council. They set up cameras like this, and there was a baroness there, Labour, they're all there videoing it. They said, right, you, tell us what's wrong. I said, all right, sound. I said, and I said, you know the park on our estate, Farley Hill, from 1960s it was built, yeah? It's built in the 1960s. Go down the road to the Islamic community, it's a £350,000 state-of-the-art park. You give them everything, yeah? You've forgot us. As white working class, you've left us. So I went through all this. I said, now let me just make a point here. Where do you live? And it was a white woman. She said, I live in Hitchin. Of course you do. Where do you live? I live in St Albans. Of course you do. Where do you... None of them live in Luton. And I got to the end when there was Mohammed there. I said, you live in Bury Park, don't you, bruv? In the Muslim community.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. I said, see, he gets it. None of you lot even know who I am or who we are.
Yeah.
You don't know what we're living with.
Yeah.
And here you are making judgment and all these things. So I've gone through this, and that Joan Bailey from the council was the only woman I trusted because she was a Lutonian. Yeah? And I knew she'd been very good to my friend who was in a children's home. She comes up to me outside Luton Town Hall and says, Tommy, Stephen, can we talk? I said, yeah. She goes, right, there's a gentleman, his name's Dave. His job is to combat the far right. Yeah. I know what you think. I know your views. I know you're not far right, yeah. But the English Defence League are now being pushed that way. So can he meet you? I said, yeah, all right, sounds. Let me meet him. So I met him. I said, do you know what? Spend the next 3 days with me, bruv. Yeah? So we went to a meeting, first meeting, English Defence League meeting. I said, this fella's job it is to stop anti-Semitism, stop racism, stop all this. He's here, he's going to see. And he said to me afterwards, you know, if you brought me to a BNP meeting and said all that, I'll get chased out. I said, this ain't the BNP, bruv. Yeah? These are normal people who are concerned with Islam. Yeah? So he spent days with me. He's getting to know me. I'm bringing him round, introducing him to everyone, and I'm telling him the problem. So I'm saying, tell the council, yeah, that bloke there, this is what he thinks. They opened up a centre in Luton called Discover Islam. Look it up, yeah. The imam, who was coming from out of town, he was coming from Edgware. This was his fifth religion, yeah. He'd been fucking basically Star Wars, he'd been everything, and in the end he'd landed on Islam, right? And his name was Yusuf Bonner. I remember it. His name was Yusuf Bonner. So I went through, and he said, before he's come into our town, and our council are opening up a shop in the town centre to convert people, he says that his job is to bring Islam into every home in Luton.
Right.
I said, well, you're bringing more outsiders into our town to bring more Islam to our... So I looked him up, I found loads of radical stuff. And then what I've done is I set up a Muslim profile, and I contacted Abdul Rahim Green, because I knew IRA. I knew IRA were the charity behind these centres. And IRA are an Islamic extremist group who are funded to push Islam throughout Britain. So I contacted Abdul Rahim Green saying, yes, brother, like, just checking, are you involved in the centre? They said, yes, we're working on it behind the scenes. So then I made my leaflets. I said, right, these are extremists behind this centre that the council are opening.
Yeah.
The council don't even do their homework. So I told this Dave fella, show them this, yeah? Before the centre opened, they had to get rid of the manager, Yusuf Bonner. He was gone. Then Dave, his job was to educate police. So the police, your councils, they have all these educational meetings, and they get educated on Islam, far right, extremism, all this stuff. Yeah? He turns up to educate the police on the far right. Guess who's giving the speech after him? Qadir Bass, the leader of the Islamic Centre. So the leader of the Islamic Centre, where Khalid Massoud, the Stockholm bomber, he's educating our police on Islam. He's a total anti-Semite. He wants to execute the gays. He's had to leave the Luton Mosque. So he's left the Luton Mosque because the school gets raided. And now he's educating the Home Office and the government and the police. That is how entrenched in the system they are. They're actually, the radicals are educating the police on Islam. And you know, so when he got there, this Dave, he's a genuine anti-racism, genuine anti-bigotry. When he got there, he said, I'm not sharing a platform with him.
Yeah.
I know who he is.
Yeah.
Do you not know who he is?
And they hadn't done their research.
None of them. Because they're very silver-tongued.
So I know you've had bad experiences with some interviews and being misrepresented. You were just telling me about the Sky News.
Sky News, Jason. Well, the worst one was Panorama.
Right.
You know that? Have you watched Panorama?
No,
oh, mate, you've got to watch it, man.
Yeah.
It's insane. So Panorama. So I come out of jail. In 2017, I go to prison for asking Muslim walking into court, how do you feel about your verdict? That's all I asked. Yeah. How do you feel about your verdict?
Yeah. They
shouted loads of obscenities. The judge called me in, had me arrested. So there's a video of him looking at us out the window, and I'm standing there talking. Yeah. They had me arrested. I go before the judge, and 2 hours later, I got 13 months in jail.
Right.
My car was still outside for work. You know, I drove up there, got to prison, rang my wife, said, yeah, I'm in jail. Just got 13 months. She was like, fuck off, Stephen. I'm like, no, I'm in jail. I'm in HMP Hull. I've just been sentenced to 13 months in prison. So how can that happen? He said, I don't even know how it happened, but it's happened. Yeah, I'm in jail. So I'm in jail. It takes 11 weeks before I'm meant to meet my lawyer after 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks to get my lawyer to meet me because we want to get appeal. So I'm thinking they can't do. I'm watching all the news say I pled guilty. I'm thinking I didn't plead guilty. What are you talking about? Yeah? They're pumping around. Well, he pled guilty. He accepted fault. I was like, no, I didn't. You didn't even ask me to plead guilty.
Yeah.
So this is all going on. I got my meeting with my lawyer. Boom, they moved me. They shipped me from HMP Hull to HMP Onley. Onley's got the biggest demographic of Muslim prisoners in the country, and I've been through the prison system. So I'm in there. After 11 weeks, we get before the High Court of London, and they realise everything was unlawful. I didn't get asked to plead guilty. Everything Judge Marston done was illegal. Yeah? So they released me from custody. Now at this point, 660,000 people had signed a petition to have me released. So the government. When I come out, I remember seeing on Facebook there was government studies, like, they pay for research. Yeah. What's your opinion on Tommy Robinson? What do you think of Tommy Robinson? Lots of questions about me. So I thought, fuck, they're asking loads of questions about me. And then I heard Panorama were doing a programme on Tommy Robinson. They're going to show the public who I am. What does that mean? Yeah. So I shit myself. So I sent a girl undercover into Panorama. So they were going around contacting people saying everyone I'd ever fallen out with was ringing me.
Right.
Saying, look, mate, Panorama are bringing the phone to me trying to get me a say shit about you. Yeah. Like, my ex-colleagues, they were blackmailing. I didn't realise. My ex-colleagues, I had 2 lads who worked for me. When I went to jail, they left. And when they previously worked for Rebel Media, who are a right-wing news agency from Canada, when they lost that job, they went and took money off of Hope Not Hate, a far left organisation, and started grasping information. So Hope Not Hate were using the fact that they'd grasped before to blackmail them, saying, well, if everyone finds out, you won't have a job in your movement. So we want you to say this about Tommy Robinson, say that about Tommy Robinson. So they were telling them what to say. So I sent a girl in undercover, and what I got on them should have been enough to finish. There should never be a Panorama show ever again. Yeah?
Right.
I got them, and this is where I know we have a totally controlled media.
Yeah.
When I was leading the English Defence League, for the first year I wore a mask. No one knew who I was. I used the name Tommy Robinson, not my real name. The media have probably told you, Stephen Yaxley Lennon. So I was wearing a mask. Now, Stephen Bird was the journalist for the Times newspaper. He went to my mum's. I was shitting myself then as well. I was like, oh, God, the whole world's going to know I'm the leader of the EDL. Because no one knew. And that was going to bring threats and danger and death and all these things. So he put me on the front page of the Times newspaper. So when he come to interview me, he said, look, your life changed tomorrow, Stephen. You're on the front page of the Times newspaper. We're unmasking who you are. I said, all right. So I kept in contact with him because I thought the article was quite fair. So over the years, I've kept in contact with him. He was a fair journalist. So I send a girl undercover. John Sweeney's the head of Panorama. I get her to covertly record him telling her what to say, making a deal with her. He says, do we have a deal? You say this, this and this, I'll put it in the film. Telling her to say shit about me. Yeah? That ain't true. Then saying that he can cut. She says to him, we entrap him sort of. She says to him, I've got a recording of Tommy screaming at me aggressively.
Right.
He says, yeah. He gets all excited. Yes. Idiot. Yeah? He says, right, we can make a sexual thing against him. That's what he says. Yeah? And she's like, this is an argument about something to do with a demonstration. And she says, yeah, but I scream aggressively at him. He goes, don't worry, we can clip all those bits out. Yeah? This is what he says on camera.
She's caught him saying that.
I've got it all. Yeah? So she's there, and I'm shitting myself thinking, Panorama are about to ruin my life. Yeah? If they've done that with her, who else have they got saying mad stuff?
Yeah.
This is why I don't trust any allegations that go flying out. You know, basically, the girl come out and said, Yax, Tommy, they're trying to make you into Harvey Weinstein. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah?
Fucking stretch. I'm
like, this is Panorama. Yeah. Panorama are the most respected investigative journalists from the BBC. So what they say, people believe. So I'm like, fuck. So I said, all right. I said, let me do something. Well, I'm at home in bed. You hate me. Because she did hate me, this girl. But she rang me. She hated me because I sacked her. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then she rang me and said, I don't like you, Yax, but we did work together.
Yeah.
What they're doing to you here is very wrong.
Right. Good for her.
You need to know what they're doing.
Good
so
for
I said,
her.
will you wear a wire? Let's get it on camera. Yeah? So then she sits there, we get a computer out, so I'm at home in bed, let's see if the best investigative journalists from the BBC actually investigate anything. So we go on the website, she goes on the website, sendafaketext.com. She sends herself a text message saying, Lucy, if you work with Panorama, I will fucking bury you, you bitch. Yeah? But makes it look like it's come from my number.
Yeah.
So I said, right, give that to them. Let's see if it's real, or whether they're just willing to take anything from anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah? So she gives it to them. Panorama then chasing me for an interview. They've got all their dirt, whatever they're filming, whatever they've set up, they've got. I give them one. I ring them, so they go to a house looking for me. I then ring them and say, right, I'll do an interview tomorrow. Has to be. So I give them a location. Now I've set up a screen like that. Yeah. I've set up a TV screen on the wall behind me. So I'm sitting there. He's sitting there in front of me. John Sweeney's there. I have my kids' school assembly, so I go and get it all set up. I set up the cameras, tell my mate to be out the back. I say, when I say play, you play. This is the sequence of videos, yeah? All the covert recordings. I do my kids' assembly. She was in preschool. I can't relax because I'm shitting myself about what's going on here. Do the assembly, I turn up. By the time I get there, they're all there. So John Sweeney's there. He says, hello, John Sweeney from the BBC. Yeah. And I look and there's 4 of them. I think, who are you lot? Yeah. They're the producers and the directors of Panorama.
Right.
That's not normal. I've done 10 documentaries.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? Yeah. This is obviously a big hit for them.
Yeah.
They're obviously like, we got him. We've got him. So I sit down in front of John Sweeney and I say, before we start, lads, I don't trust you. The BBC. I don't trust you all. So let me ask you a question. As a journalist, would you ever tell anyone what to say? In the documentary you're doing on me, would you ever tell anyone what to say? No, of course I wouldn't. So press play, and I just sat there staring at him. And he's looking on the wall behind him as covert recordings of him telling someone what to say. And I looked at his producers, and they've all just gone like this.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, this doesn't look good, does it? Is this journalism? In your eyes? Is this actually fair, balanced journalism? And then I cut in from another BBC documentary what their guidelines are. So the BBC must portray things as they are. Mustn't. So, and then back on all their own rules are playing. I'm like, seems to be against your own rules here, guys. Would you ever make up sexual allegations, John? No, of course I wouldn't. Press play, and then it's making. And to be honest, I wanted to punch his head in, because if they were successful, which I was, in the end, we carry on, and then I say, who's in control of this documentary? We are. You, the BBC. You wouldn't have any other organisations working with you. No. Okay, I play a recording of someone else, covert recording, saying that when they were being interviewed by Panorama, Hope Not Hate, a far left extremist organisation who are funded by George Soros, were present in the interview. And when he didn't say enough stuff, they took him outside and threatened him again. Yeah. So, and I've got a covert recording saying they took me outside and said, "You need to tell us this. Get back in there and fucking say this about Tommy Robinson." Yeah.
Right.
So I sit there and so I play the recording, and he's like, "No, this is our documentary." I said, "Well, simple question, lads.
Yeah.
Were Hope Not Hate present in the interview of my old employees?" He didn't answer. I said, "So they were." I said, "Here you go. Look at this direct message, and it's Hope Not Hate, Joe Mulhall." And he's messaged someone else, which we've got a message saying, "We are steering the Panorama documentary." Why would Hope Not Hate, a far left extremist organisation funded by George Soros, be steering the independent BBC if this isn't a stitch up?
Yeah.
And I went through all the stuff and I'm playing it all, and I'm like, "John, what you don't realise as we're talking is your career is over, bruv." And he's like, "Yeah, journalist." I said, "You're not a journalist. You're not. You're a fraud, mate.
Yeah, propagandist.
You're a propagandist. You're here to ruin my life." And then the funniest part of it, and anyone should watch this. This documentary had 2 million views in 48 hours. Yeah? And then I got deleted from YouTube, Facebook because of this film. And at the end, when we're standing up, and I'm like, "John, it's over. You're finished. Your program's finished. You're all done." And then the producer steps up saying, "Hold on, we're doing a documentary on you." I said, "No, you're not. I've just done a documentary on you. You don't get it, do you? Right? You can't actually see what's going on here. Yeah? You're fucked. Right? My film goes out next week. The trailers are going out today. You're going to receive a lawyer's letter today. Yeah? I've got you banged to rights." And then as he says that, he says, "Well," and he pulls out of his pocket the bit of paper. He's like, "Well, you said to Lucy Brown, you're going to bury her if she works for Panorama." I just looked at the camera and said, I told you. They didn't even check it. Didn't even fucking check it, yeah? But then I walk out and I think, right, that's it, yeah? But then within 48 hours, I was deleted off of every social media. But not just deleted, Facebook made it so you can't mention my name. So the documentary was disappeared within 48 hours. Now, this was a documentary. Bearing in mind, Panorama is the biggest show from the BBC. This proved fake news. And do you know what else it proved? Because he got drunk. He was drunk as well during our covert recording. He's being racist. He had a Greek girl, waitress, and he said, "When she comes over, watch what I say." He spoke to her in Turkish. And he started laughing. "Oh, it's fucking funny, is it, that the Turks enslaved and raped all their women? Is that a joke, is it?" And do you know when he spoke about me, he said, "Yeah, he's of scumbag Irish background." So I pulled him on that. I said, "Scumbag, what? Because we're poor." That's your view, innit, John? And then when he was talking about all of it, if you want to understand the mindset of the BBC, it was all in one film. Because he was talking about Danny Lockwood. Danny Lockwood's a journalist from Yorkshire, a very good journalist. They crucified him because he used to tell the truth. But he was a working class man. When he was in the green room, John Sweeney says, "Well, we heard that Danny Lockwood was down in the green room and he's a working class bloke." You know, it was like a Mongolian animal from the fucking Amazon forest or something like that. So what? I said, "What? You view working class people as animals from the Amazon forest? That's your level of this?" Because the girl he's talking to is very upper class as well. So they're both talking anyway. But he don't realise she's trapping him.
Yeah.
So that documentary categorically proves to everyone, they blocked me after 48 hours and deleted me from everywhere. My Facebook was gone. I had the most engaged Facebook page in the country. Not just that, the Attorney General's government, the government, contacted my solicitor and re-prosecuted me on the case that I'd just been released from.
what do you deduce from that? Is there some sort of propaganda wing of the government that has enough power to just reach out to social media and say, blacklist this guy?
Well, Nick Clegg took over social media from the government, so they're in everywhere.
Right.
Left the British government, took over, and we now know from the Twitter files of Elon Musk, we know from what he's showing from Brazil, they literally did, yes, the FBI, MI5, literally had access to Twitter, delete him, remove that, delete that. Total censorship of what you see. That's what this is all about. Controlling how you think about who you think it about. So, obviously, I don't blame people who are sitting watching this who hate me, because you've been told by a very weaponised media that I'm a Nazi, that I'm a racist, that I'm an extremist, that I'm a thug. Bit of a thug. But you've been told all... but you've been told all these things, You've been told all these things. And so I don't blame people, because if I was listening to the mainstream and I was stupid enough to believe them, I'd hate me. And I'm not perfect. And by the way, I'm not sitting here pretending I am. I'm not.
It's never good to do that anyway, because everything gets dug up and found out.
You can. And I am. Some people say, "Oh, I've seen Nigel Farage." I think he labelled me as a thug at one point. It's like, Nigel, and anyone like that, you have £500,000 security a year. I walk around everywhere on my own. If someone punches me, I'm going to punch them back. I'm not going to apologise for that. There's no footage of me being actively aggressive or violent towards innocent people ever. I just defend myself. And I've had to defend myself through the life I've lived. And those negatives from my upbringing, I would never... When I started my activism, I got attacked. I've had 6 terrorists are in jail for 30 years for a plot to kill me. They got there 2 hours late. All of these things, I would have gave up at the first punch in the nose. It was never going to be... I always say this. It was never going to be female school teachers or nurses that stood up against Islam in Britain. And on my negatives, my positives and my negatives, you have to accept some of the negatives of my upbringing. A normal upbringing, which is what I say is normal. It was in a tough town or a rough town, but... Should
you be punished for your upbringing that you didn't...
No, everyone else is allowed to move on. And I'm 41 now. I'm 41. I'm a father of 3. I'm a very different man than I was when I was 25. But even when I was 25, I still weren't a racist or any of those things. I was young, I was angry. I put a balaclava on it. Like, I was pissed off. I saw no other way. We didn't have a voice.
What would you have changed, like, as a 41-year-old man looking back on when you started out when you were 22? What would you change?
Do you know, I've done a video. So these riots that kicked off recently, which I've been blamed on somehow, mental, man. But when they kicked off, I made a video, and the video was directed at men, and I said, men, in these towns and cities, I was the same as those young men putting on a balaclava. We did in Luton, 200 of us, 300 of us, 400 of us. We're pissed off. We're angry. There's clashes. But I said to the older lads, get hold of those young lads, take the balaclavas off them. They're going to go jail. Stop them throwing bricks. It's not going to do anything. You're not going to win this battle. There's a battle for our country that's underway. There's a battle of information. Totally. There's a battle for the hearts and minds of the public. You ain't winning that battle by throwing a brick.
So this is one of my questions. Rioting, is it ever useful?
It's never useful, but it's accepted and understood when it's non-white people. So the Black Lives Matter riots, all the politicians said, we need to understand where this anger's coming from. These recent riots, it's like, they're all far-right racists. We don't need to understand shit. Let's kill the conversation, put them all in jail. Oh, someone said you're not English anymore to the police, give them 2.5 years. Mother of 5, don't care, put her in jail. They've locked up pensioners to scare the British public. So these recent riots, I truthfully believe, bearing in mind, so the public understands, I think it's important to understand the context of what's got us to these riots. Since October 7th, well, actually for the last 20, 30 years, the British have been oppressed, we've been attacked, we've been demonised. If you celebrate who you are or want to show your identity, it's frowned upon, it's not celebrated, it's deemed as racist, the British flag, all these different things. So we're already feeling upset. There is a 2-tier policing system. Since October the 7th, since the attacks in Israel, we've seen groups on the streets of London calling for jihad. We've seen desecration of war memorials. Do you know when Hizb ut-Tahrir, who are a prescribed terrorist organisation, when their leader stood up, he's been given back his job as well, leader of a terrorist group, he's been given back his job in the NHS as a doctor. When he stood up and said we need Muslim armies for jihad, the Metropolitan Police Force put out a statement saying there's plenty of different meanings for jihad. Well, I don't think there is under the black flag of Islam calling for armies, We know what he's saying. He wants a holy war, right? On the capital of London. People were flying ISIS flags, Al-Qaeda flags, Hamas flags, Hezbollah flags at demonstrations. The police made excuses for why they weren't arrested. There was plenty of hatred being pushed across our capital city, and they didn't crack down and arrest them. So the public have been watching all of this. Then we've seen the police running away at Palestinian demonstrations, getting on their knees for Black Lives Matter demonstrations. They're literally getting beat up and attacked and they're on their knees, yeah? We're seeing all this. So we're seeing many ideologies, whether it be Islam, communism, Marxism, our government seem to be on their knees to them and accepting them. Then we've witnessed all of these demonstrations of hate, all of this calling for jihad, all of this calling for gassing in the Jews. Jews can't walk the streets of London. British public, hatred everywhere. And the police have basically let it happen. And they haven't policed them. Then on Armitage Day, because it's very important, remember that lots of people are watching this. Since I've been giving back my social media, people are watching what we're doing. Armitage Day is our sacred day. It's a day that I wish we could rely on the police to protect our sacred monument and make sure that jihadists didn't go there to disrupt the 2-minute silence. But with what we'd seen for 6 months prior, or months prior, they're giving them free rein. They're not stopping them. So on Armitage Day, I made a video saying, well, I'll be going. I think every other British man should be out at the memorial to make sure that they're not, the memory's not desecrated, that groups don't climb up that memorial and hang off that British flag and set fire to it. Yeah? When we went there that day, bearing in mind, in this area, there is a Palestinian demonstration and Hamas demonstration on the other side of Tower Bridge, which is nowhere near where the memorial is. So the only people here are there to support our troops and pay their respects. The police drew their batons and blocked everyone getting into the cenotaph. Caused a big clash, and they were battering people with their batons. So after that day, that's when Suella Braverman came out and said, well, hold on, what's going on here? Yeah? We've watched you not draw a baton on jihadists and terrorists for months and months, but now you're smashing English people and British ex-forces. So that brought about the discussion. People were angry. The next thing is an anti-Semitism rally. I turn up as a journalist to cover it. I sit down in a cafe. The police come in mob-handed. You need to leave the capital city. And this is the insanity of it. You need to leave the capital city because your presence here might cause alarm and distress. So my presence might upset some people. Well, the presence of Hamas and every pro-Hamas rally has caused our whole entire country upset, alarm and distress for months, and you've done nothing. You've done nothing about ISIS flags. You've done nothing about the calling for jihad in mosques across our country. You've stood by, paralysed with fear, like bitches and cowards, and you've let them take over our capital city. And now you're getting brave, yeah? And they said, if you don't leave, you're going to be arrested. I was then forcefully arrested for doing my job on my own with my cameraman. And when I was handcuffed, my hands behind my back, they pepper sprayed me from point blank range. Pepper sprayed me. There's a video. This goes viral everywhere. Why? They didn't, because they use a level of force against us that they're scared to use against them. No one wants to be deemed as racist. They walk around policing these other demonstrations with their hands.
Is that the only reason they're scared of being called racist and Islamophobe?
They're totally fearful of being called, well, when you think about that, so it sounds mad, doesn't it? But they let a generation of daughters be in Rotherham, Telford, Rochdale, Oxford. We know from the reports in all of these cities that the police knew it was happening, but we know that they were scared of being called racist. So how powerful is political correctness and the fear of being branded racist to police officers? Well, it's that powerful that they let 12-year-old children get raped and tortured.
That's incredible.
That's how powerful.
That's incredible.
So, but their careers are at risk. If a police officer gets a black mark against his name for racism, his career's at risk.
So he can't pay his mortgage, can't look after his kids.
It's at risk.
It's a real serious consequence, yeah.
They're serious. You'd still steam through the door and you wouldn't let them rape kids. But I believe the politicisation of the police was coming from the top with the grooming gangs. Individual police officers would love to go kick the doors off those little Pakistani rapists, but their hands are tied behind their back. If we look at the case in Manchester where a 15-year-old girl was injected with heroin by a 50-year-old Pakistani man and she died, they've done a big police investigation. I identified 100 rapists, got ready for the trial, and then collapsed it. They just collapsed it, right? None of the parents were given reasons. The cases were just collapsed. This is before, again, it was all exposed properly with the English Defence League. They collapsed it. The officer who collapsed it was given the highest regard of rewards by the Queen months later. They literally look at the careers of every officer who suppressed and hid these crimes. They were excelled. All of them. Any whistleblowers, lives were destroyed, careers destroyed, jobs destroyed, reputations destroyed. They literally targeted the whistleblowers, which is basically what they're doing with me. They didn't know how to deal with the problem, so they deal with the secondary cause of the problem. So you don't like Tommy Robinson, well, you created him. Yeah, your cowardice and your failure to make arrests, your cowardice to tackle problems, the fact that you can't even name Islam, the fact that you won't give a voice to the British public, or you silence them, attack them and demonise them at every opportunity, created the character of Tommy Robinson. I wish I was still Stephen Lennon. father of three, doing my normal job. Well, not aircraft engineer, and I fucked up. But I went on to have successful plumbing business, properties. By the time I started my activism, I wish I didn't have to start my activism. But when you're watching your entire town drowned, when you're looking around your town thinking, and this is just, any of you need to do this, and so many of you are now doing it, you look at your towns and see them changing, don't you? You know it's not for the good. We all know that. You're looking around, you're thinking, this ain't right. This hotel full of young Afghanis in our town walking past my daughter going to school, luring at her, ain't right. Yeah? Well, I'd seen that my whole life. So I'm looking at my 3 kids thinking, right, I've got an option here. And the option is, my mate who just messaged me there, done the same, is move. Because that's what everyone's done. Essex has become the East London, they've all left, yeah? You can't keep moving. We can't keep, as British men, English men, running from this problem. At some point, we're going to go, hey, hold on a minute, yeah? Stop the floodgates, stop this problem, stop the hatred, stop it, stop the hostility. But to stop it, you've got to talk about it. But they want to take away our right to even talk about it. And they demonise you when you do talk about it. So I sat there and had an option when I was 25 years old. And I sat down with my cousin. When the soldiers were attacked in Luton on the homecoming parade, I sat down with my cousin and said, we can't let this happen, yeah? So we need to do something about this now. The whole country needs to know that Luton and the men of Luton, which probably through a tribalistic view was the football hooligans of Luton, ain't going to let this happen in our town.
Yeah.
And we started our resistance to it. United People of Luton formed into the English Defence League, marched around the country, raising awareness. But at that time, I remember shaking my cousin's hand saying, we can't go into this. You can't put one foot into this. Yeah? We can't be willing to back down. And we didn't back down. And sort of even at times I've wanted to back down. Plenty of times.
Why don't you? Why don't you just take 2-3 years left, let them forget about you, let them find somebody else to pen all this shit on?
It's become far bigger than me. My voice isn't just me. It's a voice now to millions of disenfranchised, fed up British public, yeah? So I knew when I went to jail, I received letters like this every day, and I panicked. I read the letters and I thought, fuck, all you people putting your faith in me. I'm a bit of a wrong 'un. Yeah? I'm not gonna save this country. Yeah? This is 2017. I'm thinking, Jesus, man, this is a lot of pressure. There's got to be someone else that's going to save this problem. And then when I put my hand to journalism, I think I'm very good at it. Yeah. And I think that, and I've said when I went to talk at Oxford University, I said the people I'm talking to, they're the future leaders of our nation.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to change and save Britain. But if I inspire or put the mind and the thought on pave the way for the conversation. Because bearing in mind, people are having conversations now that they couldn't have 5 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
We had to go to jail for that. We had to lose our homes for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I say we, I'm not personally on about me.
Yeah.
You see, every one of these men are in jail now for these riots.
Yeah.
And to the families that will watch this, whose dads have been taken, who are in prison now, get upset thinking about it, because they shouldn't be in jail. When you think about them, you think they don't realise the importance of their role in this. Because lots of people are going to get hurt, lots of people are going to get killed, and lots of people are going to go to jail for us to solve this problem. They're playing their part. There's men, I'm finding out of the families now, that are being tortured in jail right now.
Yeah.
Innocent British men. Do you know what? When I say innocent British men, working men, not criminals, not lifelong criminals or thugs. Angry men who pay their taxes every week, who have now been thrown to the lions in the prison system, labelled as far right, labelled as EDL. EDL hasn't existed for a decade. They resurrected it to get rid of their problem of the British public, and they stuck it on everyone. So if you're one of the families of these men, I don't think you understand the important role that your husband's fathers are playing. Because right now, the entire globe is looking at Britain's judicial system. And that judicial system has been weaponised for decades. You just didn't know about it. Now you know about it. Now Elon Musk knows about it. Now American politicians know about it. Now leaders of Argentina are talking about our unfair, biased, politicised judiciary system. My film that I've just created is on 46 million views. I'm going to jail. My kids here. I'm going to jail in 2 months for that film. Yeah.
How long do you think you'll get?
They'll give me whatever maximum they can give me. Yeah. But at the same time, do I want them to? No. Does it benefit my cause for them to? Yes, totally. So I'll have hell in jail. I'll either do years of solitary confinement, or I'll have my hands up from the minute I get in there. So, which I don't want. I have to go to jail and become someone I'm not. So, yeah. Because I have to be ready every second when you're in there. And I know what these men are going through now. It's like fucking hell. And I know that most of them are just normal men.
What bothers you the most about this?
What bothers me the most about it?
Like,
I take satisfaction in the fact that the world's watching it.
Yeah.
So if the world wasn't watching, I was sentenced for the last 5 years. They've done this to me anyway for 10 years. Yeah, I've been in and out of prison systems, fed to them. I had my teeth all smashed out in Woodhill. I should have got killed in Woodhill. I shouldn't even have survived what they let happen. Yeah.
Or was that a deliberate?
100%. So I'm in my cell. I get to Woodhill, first night centre. I'm on the first night centre. Screw comes up to me, opens my door. He's an ex-paratrooper. He says, when they come to get you, don't leave your cell, son. I went, what? He goes, when they come to get you, don't leave your cell. Your life depends on it. I said, okay. He fucks off. 2 hours later, he opens the door. 2 other officers, you're going A-wing. I said, I ain't going nowhere. He says, are you refusing to leave your cell? I said, yeah, I am. He said, you're going to be put on punishment. You're going to be put down the block in isolation. So he was making sure I was isolated.
Yeah.
They would put me on A-wing where 6 Muslims, 6 months before, had been sentenced. There's no cameras on the wing. They've been sentenced to 30 years for planning to kill me. They were giving me to them. They were giving me to them.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah? The next day, I go to a legal meeting with my lawyer. I come back from the legal meeting with my lawyer. There's a waiting room for lawyers. So the door opens. I walk in. I see the beards. I didn't even sit down. I know what's happening. They lock the door. Bang. I lose my teeth in there. I'm getting battered. And the Sun newspaper put out, Tommy gets done, like all celebrating. Like now they are. Like Sky News said, that they're fully aware. The government, they're talking about misinformation. You have just put a target on the back of every innocent British person who come out in outrage by your failures. These are government failures. You have failed the British public. You've took away their safety. You've took away their daughter's safety. You've absolutely enraged our country with your failure. People now see our country disappearing, our safety disappearing. And when they've come out to legally, lawfully protest, because many of these men have, what they're doing, one of them has got 18 months for shouting, Allah, Allah, Huda is Allah. It's got 18 months. What? They're calling for jihad. You're making excuses for them. You're locking up British pensioners. So I know, do you know, I sat last week thinking about what all these families are going through. All I ever think is punch back, yeah? I don't know anything else other than punch back. So every time I'm getting punched, which we're being punched now, the whole country's being punched, I want to punch back. So my documentary that I released on the 27th of July, and bearing in mind I was going through the process. The public are watching all of this, so they're seeing the two-tier policing, they're seeing the treatment our country's receiving, they're seeing the calls for jihad, they're seeing all of it. Then St George's Day, the police blocked the road, so they just had Pakistani Day. Police didn't block any roads. The police were dancing with all the Pakistanis. It's St George's Day, our national day, where people come out to celebrate their identity in our capital city. They blocked the road and attacked them. There's videos of them throwing women on the floor, yeah, because they believe they can do that to us as British citizens. They don't care. There's no backlash. No one's burning the country, yeah. So they've done that. Everyone's watched it. Public have watched it. I then organised, I said there's a need for a cultural revolution really in Britain. We need to celebrate who we are and we need to unite the country but under the British banner. Now, what is the British banner? You don't have to be white to be British. My mum was an immigrant. Many fabulous immigrants come to this country, have embraced it and are absolute credits to the nation. Yeah, we want them all coming together. Yeah, if you love this country, come together. We held one event on the 1st of June. The next one was 27th of July. We had 1 million people watching live, 887 people watching our event live. Things have changed now. Them lot, the media, the monopoly they've had's gone. They've had the monopoly to tell you who we are, to lie about us to you, to lie about everyone, not just us, Panorama. Their Panorama on me never come out. They couldn't show it because it was all fraudulent. Yeah? They lied to you. You know that when COVID hit, when vaccines hit, when lockdowns hit, Brexit, they lie. They don't care. They think you're fools. They think you're stupid, yeah? But they lie. Then comes about 27th of July. We hold the biggest gathering of British patriots the country's ever seen. 100,000 in a totally peaceful event. Do you know how it was peaceful? Because lots of football groups were there. People want to demonise football hooligans. They'll be the last men fighting for this country, and unfortunately that's the reality. Yeah, they'll be the men that are willing to stand there. Now we managed, with the support of Football Lads Alliance, which is a group that brings all the football groups together, we managed to bring people to our capital city to celebrate British identity, and we managed, through adults, because we're mature now, as I said, I wasn't when I was 25, to send a message to people that I understand the need to get out on the street and be angry, but that's when you don't have a voice. At our last event on the 1st of June, we had 1 million people watching live. We've got a voice. Yeah. Let us be that voice. Yeah. Let us send a message to the establishment. This is David versus Goliath, and David is ready for a battle. Yeah? Let us tell them we're ready for a battle. We're not watching anymore whilst you flood our nation and remain silent. Our one thing we have is our speech. The most important thing we have is our speech. If the entire British public were aware of what the future looks like with continued mass open border immigration for the safety of our children, what it's going to be like for them growing up, we'd have a revolution tomorrow. Yeah? So our focus was about building a cultural movement if you change the culture, you change the politics. We can't win this through political system, this battle. We can't. Reform got 5 MPs from 4.5 million votes. Liberal Democrats got 70 MPs from 3.5 million votes. Our democratic system and our voting system is different in Europe, which is why they have proportional representation, so they can actually get representation. So the 4.5 million of you voted got 5 MPs. Yeah? That's not representation. You should have had 90. Through the voting systems that are in Holland and other countries, you'd have had 90 MPs. That's 90 people in Parliament putting across your voice. That's an entire massive block giving you a voice. But they don't want that. So they keep it so the two major parties hand the baton from one to the other. Yeah? That's all our system is. It's one party, which was the Conservatives, who are mass open border immigration, brought in 1.2 million in 1 year, mass support of Ukraine war. They're mass pro-war. They're the same as the Labour Party. There's no difference. The fundamental things that are affecting us and our future and safety and us or our kids, they're the same. So you need a voice. And we said that if we build a cultural movement, a peaceful cultural movement. So all of the riots on January 6th, what happened in the last 2 weeks is Great Britain's January 6th.
Yeah.
On January 6th, FBI agents instigated trouble and they instigated a coup. They tried to. It's now proven that undercover officers were leading that. Yeah.
And letting people in.
Letting people in.
Open the door for them.
And then they called it a resurrection.
Yeah.
And then they clamped down and they put fear in the entire American public to ever protest again.
Yeah.
That's what they've done these last 2 weeks.
They're scaring you out of speaking.
Scaring you out of your democratic rights, the freedom of assembly. And Keir Starmer and these lot now, what they've done over the last 2 weeks, imprisoning people for saying something on Facebook. I looked at one yesterday. He got 3 years, 2 months. Spoke to his family. All he put was, as the Southport trouble was going on, he put Knaresborough next or wherever his local hotel is.
Yeah.
He had 3 years, 2 months for that on Facebook. He didn't incite violence. There was no protest at that hotel. He just commented saying that next.
When you got emotional about that before, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling a total and utter betrayal of our country's men and women, of families, of hard-working British public who have been absolutely betrayed by a government who are intent on destroying and silencing them. You know what? If the government could speak openly, what they're saying is, you lot will shut the fuck up whilst we flood your country. Whilst we take your work, whilst we put you in poverty, you'll shut up. Because we've got our plan and you're not getting in the way. And if you do get in the way, we're going to lock you up. And not just lock you up, the thing that gets me emotional is, they're feeding these people. I've lived a very colourful life. Yeah? I'm from a violent town. Most of these men ain't. Yeah. Most of these men I looked at one bloke, man, he's worked 49 years on the railway, never been in trouble before in his life. They've just thrown him into jail. And I know what it's like. I've walked in there. I've walked into Bedford Prison when I walk in and they're all on the landings howling. Yeah. And I'm shitting myself. And I'll have a fight, yeah? These men are just normal straight goers, man. I'm thinking about the worry that's going through their wives' head because I know what went through my family, their mums. I know exactly the situation they're in and it's terrifying. And they're not going to get any protection. People know who I am. Yeah? So when I talk about my issues, you're all hearing them. Yeah. No one's hearing these 50 men, 60, 100, 1,000 victims. These are victims of the British state. These are victims of failed policy by government because they've failed in every town and city by flooding the nation. They've been failed left, right and centre. And when they've got angry, when they've had justified anger, yeah, I'm not encouraging the riots. In fact, all of my messaging from the start said, get the balaclavas off the kids, pull their masks down, put them in line, show them some leadership. Do you know, we had leadership on June the 1st and July 27th. We had 100,000 people at one demonstration, yeah? Not one single bit of trouble. Do you know why? Because we had leadership. Yeah. We led the men, we led them, and we told them, I made clear messages like this. I told the police straight. Yeah. You see if any of your officers come in wearing all black. Because that's if you look at the riots, have a look at Sunderland's riots, go get the pictures up. You'll see all the people smashing the police station and setting fire to it are fully masked. I bet none of them face prosecution because we never find out who they are. Yeah? These riots have totally benefited the government. They wanted these riots. They wanted these riots so they didn't have to have the discussion about open border immigration, so they could label all the British public as far right, and they could bring in laws to take away your rights and terrify the British public with their absolute tyranny, which is what we've seen in the last 2 weeks. Getting arrested on a Saturday and in prison by a Tuesday, televised arrest, televised court case, unheard of. Yeah. This has all been propaganda by the British state, all to prevent them having a conversation about their failures. That's what this has all been about. They've set us back. They know that our cultural movement, 100,000 people on the street, we're on the verge of a revolution in Great Britain, we are, by the public, and this is about suppressing and stopping it. Yeah. And again, listen, when you look at the power of the media, All of my messages said, be peaceful. All of them said, stop burning shit and stop attacking police officers because they're ordinary people going out of work. Yeah, they're family men. You're attacking them. It's wrong. I understand why you're angry because I'm angry about two-tier policing, but it's not them. Yeah, that's all my messages were. And then boom, all of a sudden, then they blamed it on the English Defence League, which was a group that I led. It hasn't been around since 2015. They tied it to us, and then they told the world that I'd instigated riots. And luckily, with Elon Musk's, I made a video showing what I've said. Here's what I've said. I've called for peace and calm. In fact, go on AI and ask them, did I instigate riots? Yeah? AI will tell you I didn't. Yeah? But the mainstream media, Piers Morgan, politicians, police leaders, all of them have sat on every channel you can think of. Daytime TV, morning TV, Sky News, radio stations, LBC. All of them have told you, the public, they've lied to you, that I instigated riots, and they've told you, the public, the main thing, and I'm now making a film about the riots. I'm going to show you what they've done, yeah? They put out a total hoax, and where they were losing the grip, so they didn't want to show the public are angry across the country, they blamed it on the far right. Then they created 100 far-right riots. They put out, across the whole country, in every local newspaper, every government body in that town, the hospitals, they were sending emails out, messages out saying there's going to be a riot by the far right tonight. All bullshit. Yeah. There was nothing planned. Yeah. There was one demonstration planned in Aldershot and it was peaceful. Yeah? But what they've done, they mobilised the left, their communist little movements that were all paid to come out with the same banners saying the same thing against racism, against hate. They got images of that, and every national newspaper the next day run the same headline. Like, if you don't think you've got control media, have a look. I'm going to show you in this documentary. All controlled. There has been absolute tyranny by the state, and at the moment, the only chance we have is that we have X. I made a video showing that I didn't lie, so 7 million people watched that video, saying that I didn't call for violence, yeah? That's 7 million people that know the truth. The video I've made in the documentary I faced 2 years for, 46 million people so far have watched it. By the time they get me into a court and get me in prison, 50, 60 million people.
What's the name of that documentary?
Silenced. The only place you can watch it is on X, and they're going after Elon Musk. The only place you can watch it is on X. It's my pinned tweet, @TRobinson_New_Era. Watch the film. You will see that they don't...
It's excellent. It's an excellent film. Really, really well made.
It's good journalism.
Yeah, it's good journalism.
It's real journalism.
Yeah. I thankfully was pushed to watch that 2 weeks ago, and then my perspective of you changed. I was like, oh, this guy's a journalist. Yeah. That's really your thing, is investigative journalism. Investigative,
and I've done some great pieces. I've done Hope Not Hate. I've done Panorama. I've done a 5-part series on the rape of Britain. Do you know Ireland? When the trouble started flaring in Ireland last March with the immigration centres,
yeah.
I went straight to Ireland. My mum's Irish. I flew straight to Ireland, and do you know what I wanted to prove to everyone? Yeah, I wore a hidden camera, and I went into Killarney, and I just went up to women in the street and said, do you mind if I ask you, what's it like now compared to what it was like 2 years ago? Because they've filled all the hotels. They're like, we can't walk the street. Well, my friend got sexually abused. This person got bad. My husband has to pick me up for work. Like, literally every single person. So I showed, and then I said to the women, okay, I'm a journalist from the UK. Can I just get a camera out and you say that? No. Yeah. I can't be on camera saying it. Yeah. So I showed that we now self-censor through fear. Yes. Yeah? They've got the atmosphere. They use NGO organisations to attack anyone who speaks out. Yeah. They've created this atmosphere where people don't say what they think. Yeah. But I want to show the public, this is how Irish women feel. This is why they're leading the marches on the streets, not because they're far right. I went to Killarney, I went to all different towns, and I put together a fabulous piece. It's called Plantation 2, Rise of the Celts. And I took myself out of the documentary because I was going to, first of all, go to the demonstrations, but I didn't want the demonstrations, that the uprising that was witnessing in Ireland being deemed as far right. It doesn't matter, they've done it anyway.
Oh, really?
So I didn't...
You were worried that if they put your face on...
I worried if I went to the demonstrations and interviewed, they'd link me to the demonstrations. Yes. And do you know, when COVID hit off, I didn't go on the demonstrations, which I felt very passionately about, because I didn't want them to be labelled far right. Yeah. I didn't want them to use me as a bullet to shoot them. Yes. But within a week, Google COVID far right, you all got labelled as far right anyway. Yeah. Ireland, you've all been labelled as far right anyway. Yeah. All of you. Right? What you need to understand, it wouldn't matter if you had 1,000 black men on the street protesting about immigration, you're going to be labelled as far right and racist. Okay? Those weapons and those words are used to instill fear in you. The message that we give and what we inspire people to do by not backing down, those labels don't matter anymore. And I can tell you that from absolute fact. I walk down the street, wherever I walk, I don't know how long your cameras are here for. Why don't we walk through Albufeira High Street?
If you're happy to do
I'll do it with you. Why don't we walk through Albufeira High Street and see the reception we receive?
All right.
See how the British public feel.
Okay.
I ain't been out like but I can't remember. When I used to go out, I end up being unsociable. You alright, mate? How are you? You good?
Keep it up.
Cheers, bub.
Keep it up.
Cheers, bub. You alright, mate? How are you?
I tell you what,
children, we've been trying to get this message across for years. Thank you for
when my 75-year-old Nana is fucking phoning me up and coming over my house and going, have you seen that Tom Robinson said where I have? And he's going, that man there is completely right, and that's a 75-year-old woman.
Nana's on it. Come on, man.
Someone matters made on it.
Yeah,
Thank you very much
Cheers.
for your voice.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, love. Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Yes, all right.
You alright,
How are
Dan?
you?
Cheers, Dan. Thanks. He said things have changed when my 75-year-old Nana is ringing me up saying, are you watching Tommy Robinson? He goes, my Nana. Come on, Bob. Oh, mate, how are you? How are you, Bob? Right? Yeah, good, man. We're on the sesh. Yeah, good, Dad. You good? Yeah, boy. Cheers, Bob. Cheers. Cheers, Bob. Behind you.
Watch it!
Stardust.
He hangs it up. No sense. Can I get my chair side of my dad?
Yeah, go on.
I'm proud of what you're doing, I'm proud of it.
Have a good holiday. Right, lads. Yeah, sound, bud. Where are you from?
Wales.
Come on, lads. Have a good holiday.
You are the real deal.
Cheers.
My G. What's up,
Sound,
brother?
bud. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, bud.
I'm from Telford.
Oh, yeah, fucking hell. You've been watching the Maple Britain. I've just let you know where I am. They ain't going out, and I'll be left this country by then, so that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
So when they tracked me down with my family, and they tracked me down to when I was I needed a 2-week break with my kids because I know I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
So I was built up for this 2-week break to have real loving time, so I can make some great memories, put my phone away, and if I go to jail, the last memories my kids have are positive. And then they tracked me down after 2 days and gave everyone docs where I was in the hotel. All the reporters did, all the hotels shitting themselves. Then Muslims are making videos saying, go and get him at this hotel. They put my kids in safety. I had to leave the kids after 2 days. And then, so I purposely flew to another country and uploaded the video so they could see the name of the road. Because I knew now they're going to head to Athens. And then I contacted them all saying, yeah, do you want an interview? Yeah, meet me here. And I had them hire a suite in a hotel. And I said, what time do you land? They said, like 10 in the morning. I said, well, I can't meet you till 9 at night. I thought, you're staying there all day later. And then at 9 at night, I said, mate, I'm a bit caught up. I'll be another hour.
Yeah.
And they're all waiting in this hotel. And then I just messaged them saying, you fucking wankers. Right? I'm not even there. Yeah? But the point is, you see the harassment they're giving me. They've followed me for years. They've gone to family spots, addresses, knocked on doors. Why don't you do that to the men that are raping kids? Why are you lot? So in the case, when I went to jail in 2017, the Huddersfield case, I'd started looking at the men that were on bail. They were still running chicken shops. Children were still going in and out of their businesses. And they're on bail for raping kids. Why are the journalists not showing that?
Okay, so you've asked that question rhetorically. Do you have any theory as to what the idea
Yes,
is?
the journalists are the media is a weapon. And at the time, I've had 100,000 people on the streets of the country in a very peaceful celebration. We told the police, if anyone turns up wearing all black, we're going to stop them.
Yeah.
We put a message out to all the influential lads saying, you see on the street, if you see someone covering their face, get that face mask off them. Right? Then it stops the ability of infiltrators to come in and smash stuff up.
Yep.
They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They knew they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They knew that we'd turn on them. So they've seen us hold a peaceful rally. We had a meeting the week before. Katie Hopkins, Lawrence Fox, Calvin Robertson, Cole Benjamin, Mayor Tusi. We had a bigger reach from the people there, to build a cultural movement than the media can dream of. So if we want to challenge their lies, we can now do it at a click of a button. They're terrified of what we were doing.
But so you're saying the media is the cat's paw of the government. Are you saying that any pro-patriotic position is fundamentally anti-government now?
Well, it is, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
totally.
if you're for the nation...
If you're for the nation and you're for protecting the British nation and you're for borders and you're for controlled borders, that is against the government's agenda. The government are working for a globalist agenda. All of them are the same. Their agenda is mass open border immigration, destroy your culture, destroy your identity, break down your family, weaken your children, feminise them, get them blue hair, get them cutting their penises off, make sure none of them understand who they are, because then they've got a very controllable public who don't know who they are. If you know who you are and you bring your children up as strong younger men, like I would advise every one of you to do, to know their history, know where they come from, they're going to fight for it. They don't want men ready to fight.
You're saying that's the reason for this open border mass migration policy?
Mass open border migration policy is to weaken our nation, and they are being used as a weapon as well. The migrants are being brought in as a weapon. They're being used. They destroy our culture, destroy our community. We're all warring with each other. We're looking at them, blaming them. They're looking at us. They're aggressive with us. The whole time, these lot up above us are bringing in laws that they need, that they will use the level of violence by the migrants they're bringing in. We will end up saying, please, we need more laws. Please give ID tags. We need to know who they all are. They're raping women. We need more policing. We don't need more policing. We need more policing at the border. We need smaller government, less government. We need you to stop interfering in our lives. That's what we need. But they don't want that. They don't want a strong, independent nation of families who want to be successful, who aspire to greatness, I aspire for my son to own his own company. They don't want that. They want corporations run their thing.
That sounds very in line with some of the types of things that Andrew Tate says. Do you guys sort of agree on some of these points?
I don't buy, and I get a lot of criticism from my own supporters for this, yeah? I know Andrew Tate. He's from my town.
Yeah.
He's a Luton lad. Okay. I know people who have known him his whole way through growing up. No one talks about. I know that my son, if you saw the before and after picture of him from when he started listening to Andrew Tate, he went from a chubby little child to a machine with a six-pack. Yeah. That's what he looked like before and after.
Yeah.
Okay. He started fighting, boxing, fitness, health, talking about the strength of men. They have worked and spent billions of pounds, from the top to the bottom through the education system to turn your son into a fat, weak mess. Yeah? They don't want him being strong. That's what they want. They want you relying on pharmaceutical medicine. They want you taking antidepressants. Andrew Tate saying, I don't believe in depression. Get out, get fit. You take me a fat man, give him a six-pack, he's not depressed any longer. Yeah. Well, that's a very stupid way of looking at of saying it.
It's
but what it means is,
but it's largely...
Get out in the nature. Yeah. I've seen it myself. It took me to the age of 39 to realise the importance of health and fitness.
Yeah.
And I at times was in very dark places. I've never took prescription drugs. I don't believe in them, but I've been prescribed every one of them by doctors, medical professionals. I've been told I'm suffering from intense, extreme post-traumatic stress disorder, all these different things. I know my medicine now is getting fit and being healthy. If I'm a different person, if I go to the gym in the morning and if I don't go for 3-4 days, I start having dark clouds over my head.
Yeah.
I can't face.
Same.
I'm facing a lot,
Same.
all the time. When I'm fit and healthy, I can face it. I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
When I'm not, and they want that. They don't want you being independent, strong.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with everything Andrew Tate says. He wouldn't agree with everything. In fact, he's a convert to Islam, so he doesn't agree with everything I say. We would clash on a lot of things.
Would you sit with him if I could organise it?
Of course I would. I'd love to. In fact, Andrew Tate said he would.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a possibility we could go to Romania. Would you be up for that?
Yeah, 100%.
That would be awesome.
100%, because I had to tell my son, who looked up to Andrew Tate, you need to stop looking up to this gentleman now.
Right.
Because the vision he's given for Great Britain is dangerous now. Yeah? And that's difficult from a man that I respected as a friend. Like, I look at Andrew Tate. I think Andrew Tate was cornered. Okay? I think Andrew Tate is a chess player.
Yeah.
And he's thought he's playing chess with the whole Islam thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't realise, I don't think, he's checkmated himself. You can't leave now, bro. Yeah? You can't actually...
There's nothing worse than an apostate, is there, if they go the
They'll kill you. They'll want to kill you more than me.
Yeah.
So you wanted to escape the matrix system, you've enslaved yourself in another one, where you can't actually speak freely and openly. The biggest gift, you're the most outspoken person in the world. I believe if you spoke openly, you don't actually believe in Islam. And I'd love to have that conversation with Andrew, but I would never want to force him into the situation, because I believe he made a decision at a very dangerous time in his life. He'd been censored, removed from everyone. Remember, if Panorama had their way, you'd all think I'm a sex case. You'd all think I'm Harvey Weinstein, yeah? And it's bullshit. So that's bullshit. Look at Russell Brand, very open about his sexual life. And when did they come for him? When he started talking out against the vaccine. All of a sudden then there's all these cases, are there?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind I know certain parts of Tate's case. I know some of the girls involved back in England, so I know the lies they've told.
Okay.
Yeah? So I know it's the same with Mohammed, who was the Barrow alleged rapist.
Yeah.
He cannot face trial by public opinion
Yeah.
based on someone that's lied.
Yeah.
I don't think Andrew Tate, they came for him at a time when he was masculising
Yeah.
a feminist generation of children.
100%.
Does that mean everything he said's right? No. I also know Andrew Tate, and I said to my son, he's not a billionaire, yeah?
He's telling a few little stories.
He's telling a few lies. I've seen Andrew Tate talk about drugs and drug dealing, yeah?
Yeah.
I knew Andrew Tate's life.
Yeah.
So I don't believe he's ever been involved in this sort of life, yeah?
Right.
So he's dramatised.
It's a character.
He's built a character, but
Yeah.
in building that character, he said things that are now being used to hammer him.
Yes.
But he didn't realise he's going to be... His original position was making money, he's a businessman, out of men who need to be told how to be men. So he was making these situations and talking about women in a certain way, but now he's in trouble for it.
Do you think they've got anything decent on him, or do you think this is a harassment case now? They've had a year and nothing's been...
If Andrew Tate didn't become the most influential man that he has become in strengthening young boys and telling them to escape the system, if he didn't, would he be facing charges? No.
They wouldn't be after him if he didn't do that. So his major...
I don't believe so.
His major offence is remasculinising a population of men that are boys. That they
Part of it was... I used to get my son when he was at school, well, still at school, but just saying to me, Dad, why have you got me in this slavery? Like, why are you listening to the Matrix? And then I'd get a video of all the rainbows at school saying, what am I doing here, Dad? I think I've got no arguments here. Like, in all honesty, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. What are they teaching him?
Yeah.
What are they teaching him? But that was for Andrew Tate. So I can see over that 6-week period, I saw the influence he had in their generation.
Yeah.
And it was school summer holidays when he blew up.
Yeah.
He majorly blew up. So I wonder what they're going to do when he gets back to school. Because mixed with that, you've got loads of young kids who are making stupid comments as well, because they're young kids. Is that Tate's fault? Do you know what I mean? Teaching he's the most dangerous man in the world. My supporters, many of my supporters hate Tate.
Why do they hate him?
He converted to Islam. He said Britain would be better if it was Islamic. He's made unforgivable comments in that sense to people. And then many of them would also see the morality of how he earned his money. Many of them would question the morality. But then I asked those men, have you ever been to a strip club? Shut up then.
Yeah.
Don't look at everyone else when you're in glass houses. And
that's a Christian response, isn't it? You can't let him without sin cast the first stone. It's a Christian response.
And many of my friends, as I said, I've got friends who are in jail, in and out of jail for mad crimes. I can't judge their crimes, man, or their lives, and they're still my friends. So do I think it's right that he was selling drugs? Do I think it's right that he stabbed someone or shot someone? No, I don't. Yeah. But then when you've grown up with people,
it's the environment can lead you that way. I don't want to preempt it and steal his position, but do you think his idea, like I heard him, I was listening to him a couple of nights ago, and he was saying, well, in Islam you can't disrespect God, in Islam, and you can't. There are consequences to the disrespect of Islam as a religion. There's no consequences to the disrespect of the Christian religion. It's almost like he sort of sees it as like he's joined the strongest team.
It's the strongest gang, which is why everyone converts in jail. Now, yes, Christianity's weak. Would it still be here if it was always that weak? No. Look at the Crusades. Yeah. But now it's become feminised and weak. And I believe people have infiltrated the church who don't even believe in Jesus. Yeah. They're pushing a Marxist belief onto people.
Right.
Same with the Catholic Church. Same with all the churches in the West. It's still strong in Hungary. Still strong in Poland.
Yep.
It's still strong in Africa.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think that Andrew Tate has looked at it. He doesn't talk about Muhammad either. Yeah. So he talks about God. What, is it good that people want to kill you because you say something about religion? No, it's not. I believe in total freedom of speech. People should, if your religion is that strong, it should be open to criticism.
Absolutely.
And it should survive criticism.
Absolutely.
It's total cowardice and weakness and pathetic that you want to beat people up for talking about Islam.
You shouldn't silence people. Your ideology should be so strong, or your philosophy should be so strong that you don't silence anybody because you believe in it.
Because it stands up to criticism. But Islam has certainly filled a void. And Islam is many people need direction in life and told what to do. Many people, yeah? Islam does that. And Islam has some fabulous parts that would attract you to it. But it's not a buffet. That's what I keep saying. It's not a buffet. You can't think, I like this bit, but I'll ignore that bit. Because that bit is the bit that's caused this to blown up and this woman to be raped. So you can't think, well, The community side of Islam, at times I'm envious of it.
Yeah.
When I look at Luton and I look at their strong, close-knit community and how together they are,
Yeah.
it's gutting to see how weak we are. But then, which is what the English Defence League was, a strong identity and community, and everyone stood together. Any cultural movement, obviously I've learned, I don't think it's right. I left the English Defence League in 2015 because I didn't think it was right to be marching the way we were through my hometown again.
Yeah.
The first times it was, send a message to them, let the government know we're not happy here, yeah?
Yeah.
Beyond that, it wasn't right, so I stopped that.
Why was it not right?
Because we were helping the radicals.
You were working against your own objectives.
We were helping them. We had problems that needed airing, and we needed to air them in a certain way. No one was listening to us. No one wanted to sit down with us, so we went, bang, here you go. Listen, now we've got to listen. Yeah? We're on the streets, you better listen. So that's how we went. I was at 25 years old. By the time I was leading EDL at 30, I'm thinking, I don't want the EDL to come back from my hometown.
Yeah.
It's going to have the adverse effect.
Yeah.
It was needed, not needed. Yeah.
Right.
The issues we were raising were talked about. Then I started thinking in the last couple of years, maybe it's needed again.
Yeah.
Maybe the government have forgot. Yeah. But then I thought the better way, and as a mature man, that what we need is far bigger than Islam. Our problem isn't Islam, essentially. The biggest threat to this nation, I always thought, was Islam. When COVID hit, I reevaluated everything and thought, oh, these fuckers are the biggest threat.
It was the government.
Yeah, this government are using, they've opened our borders and pushed them in here. We're all going to be clashing with each other. They've created Black Lives Matter. They want you gay, you straight, you black, you white, you here, you there. Separate all of them. We're all sitting there arguing with each other whilst they're bringing in draconian laws to deal with us. But again, we'll be begging out for those draconian laws because of the violence that they're bringing in from the hostility they're importing. So yeah, the government, and if anyone didn't recognise the world government that we live under after COVID, you're blind, and you should see that the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, all these people are making decisions. They're not elected by us. They can't be removed by us. And all of our governments are in their pockets and working for them. And even Keir Starmer now, they said Parliament or Davos. He said Davos. It's all there. Yeah. All the young world leaders coming out of the World Economic Forum, who are now in control of all the European nations and the world's nations, they do not have the interests of you at heart. And immigration is one part of that jigsaw. It was all over COVID. I think a lot of people's eyes were opened. A lot of people started questioning stuff. I know certainly with my own reputation, my direct messages now will be full of people who say they used to hate me, and I'm sorry I hated you, but I believe what they said about you. Now I'm looking and I'm listening to what you're actually saying.
That's what my mum said.
That's what your mum said?
Yeah. She said,
what's your mum saying?
Said Nicky.
Nicky, hello. Welcome to the truth. Welcome on side. You're now a far-right racist extremist. Hey, Keir Starmer's coming for you next.
Yeah. She was like, I didn't use this, but now I really think he has some very good things to say. I said, I'll tell him that, Mum. I'm sure he'll be desperate.
It's the reason why when I give my presentation at Oxford University, and I take satisfaction from that. I walked into Oxford University, for me, bearing in mind I'm from a working class place in Luton, and I think I started my speech saying, from the streets of Luton town to the Oxford Uni.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. We made it. Okay, we made it. Do I want to be there? And my view is, I even think the establishment. I think Nigel Farage wants to be part of the establishment. I want to tear it down. It's a big difference between two of us.
So you're much more of a revolutionary than he is.
I'm fed up that we need working class people in power. Yeah, 90% of Labour's MPs are privately educated.
Eton, Oxford,
they know
Cambridge.
nothing about us. Yeah, we need true representation, and if we can't have it, remember, politicians are cowards. We've seen. They wouldn't talk about these things. Nigel now talks about certain things that he wouldn't have spoke about because he knows the mood of the country shifted. He may have thought them 5 years ago, but didn't talk about them. When we show with 100,000 people, 200,000 people, 300,000 people peacefully on the streets of our country, they will shift. The Overton window has been totally shifted in what's acceptable to discuss now. Yeah?
Yes. 100%.
Conversations are being had by mainstream TV presenters, mainstream radio. They still slam me before having the conversation, but we laid the foundation for that conversation.
100%.
And I remember there's a podcast, a very establishment-based podcast, and they made comments previously about me, and now they've started talking about the issues, and I hammered them. Yeah? And I received a direct message from them saying, look, do you regret anything you've said? Like, we've had a big awakening here. So what have I asked for? I've spoke for 15 years. It was a lonely place. Having these conversations was a lonely place for the last decade. Now everyone's having them. Yeah. So should I be encouraged by that? Should I let my own bitterness go? Because I am bitter. Do you know why I'm bitter? Because I know what my kids had to live through. I know the reputational damage that was done to me by all your bullshit accusations. And now you're saying the same things, and you act like you're heroes for saying it. See, look, the bitterness is still coming across. I'm pissed off with you.
Give
right?
Tommy credit.
I'm pissed off.
Give
I
him
want the credit.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off, man. Not just me. Do you know what it is? Do you know how many people lost their jobs? I had school teachers crying during the English Defence League times. So when I talk about me, there's a movement behind me.
Yeah.
It's not just me. It's not about me. It's about a movement of people. Like when I walk to court on the 28th of October, I'm not alone. There's an army coming. You know?
Yeah.
And there's an army of activists now online. And you might want to lie about me, but just read the comment section. That's why they have to turn them off. Yeah. Every journalist and every newspaper for years now, whenever they mention me, turns off the comment section. Why?
Cowards.
You're getting hammered. You're getting hammered, mate. You're getting hammered in the ratios.
Tommy, I know that you need to spend some more time with your kids. I really appreciate you coming in. Are there any final thoughts you want to leave people with before we wrap this?
Final thoughts are, the moment we're in is the most important in the future of our culture and our country and your children's future. And it's not going to be, I'm not saying, people, I keep saying, we're not talking about violence here. You need to speak. People need to speak. They need to find bravery and courage. And I wore a mask and used a fake name because I was the same as you. I had a successful job, properties, I was financed, I was doing very well, yeah? But there comes a time when you have to decide, you see your children and their children and their children, what country do you want for them? Do you want, what do you want it to look like? Everyone knows we're not going down the right path as a nation. And things have to change, and they're going to change through us expressing our opinions peacefully, talking about it. And you know what? Any citizen journalist, any podcast host, any of these shows, any of them, not just me, not Richard, any of them, support them. Don't support Netflix, don't support Amazon, don't support them, the controllable ones. Support the uncontrolled citizen journalists who live streams and have discussions with people they don't agree with. Richard, I thank you for having the discussion. I know you don't agree with me on everything, but it's good that people can talk and give an opinion so people get an honest reflection of who I am.
Thanks for coming in, mate.
And by the way, it's a sauna in here, yeah?
It is very hot.
That's why I'm sweating, right?
That's why I'm wearing black. I'm wearing black so you can't see it.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, mate. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. This has been The Strongest Argument, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time.